height, but if she didn't look down, it wouldn't be too daunting though under such pressure. Who would notice? Yo-Yo leapt onto the floating skulls. She nimbly dodged the black gas hand as she ascended, reaching an altitude similar to Yuri X's. Flames spread beneath her feet, igniting each skull in turn. Though it was a bit awkward wearing spring shoes and stepping on heads, this seemed like their only means of attack. Experiencing things firsthand is different from playing them out on the computer screen. With dice, pocket watch, and these bunny outfits, my critical hit rate isn't bad. 记忆轻巧. Landing at a height similar to that of Yuri X, flames spread from her feet up the skull. Despite the awkwardness of wearing spring shoes while standing on his head, it was the only way she could attack. Experiencing this firsthand is vastly different from seeing it in a game. Combining dice and pocket watch with these bunny skirts boosts my critical hit rate. Before each jump would yield thousands now, under optimal conditions, I can get into the tens of thousands. Seeing those big numbers really relieves stress. The dice and pocket watch are relics that vanish after completing the challenge, but this bunny skirt is a permanent item for players. Maybe she could collect an entire set. She loves these critical hits so much. Phase 2. Your X's health bar was already depleted in Phase 1 now. During the transition to Phase 2, Yo-Yo couldn't move at all. The man's eyes and mouth glowed black and red as his wings grew larger. His dark power rapidly expanded, tearing through space, making everything around him disappear. Standing on the skull, Yo-Yo fell when her footing was lost. Below lay a crimson void stretching endlessly into infinity. Everything had been shattered by the shockwave. She could only fall helplessly, with no way to regain balance. The demon's black claws descended suddenly. I remember this phase allows for counterattacks, thought Yo-Yo as she adjusted her falling angle to dodge the attack. With each claw came small, dark spheres resembling miniature black holes that players had to hit at just the right moment when they fell from above. Without a weapon in hand, Yo-Yo became a soccer player and kicked one of them with her foot. It was tricky to light and she wouldn't hit it too hard and she might spin herself dizzy. After dodging for quite some time, your excess health finally dropped to half when he got hit by the black spheres. Didn't expect you to be this good, said Yo-Yo with a laugh. He simply and brutally hooked the ball with his toe in mid-air before kicking it forcefully towards the sharp claws. It was a bit tricky to control. If done too lightly, he wouldn't hit anything. But if he kicked too hard, he might spin around himself. This way, she managed to survive for quite some time on the falling map until Yuri X finally got her back down with a kick that left him half meanness depleted. Didn't expect you to be so good at this. This is truly fascinating, he said, grinning like a kid again. He wore a white but unmined shirt with slight wrinkles and short suspenders over his shorts, paired with leg rings and knee-high white socks that started from the tips of his toes. Clearly excited, your Aisha's cheeks were flushed red. Yuri X is Affinity 10. Yo-Yo, boosting affinity points in the middle of a fight. She had never seen this before. Is he an SM lover or just loves fighting? Yo-Yo pondered deeply as Yuri X now fully engaged, lunged towards her again. Everything was over now. Standing atop the high throne surrounded by skulls, Yo-Yo looked down at Yuri X who lay gasping on the ground below. His dark wings had long since dissipated due to his lack of strength. Why didn't you kill me? He growled through gritted teeth, like a dangerous beast glaring up at her. Or did you want to humiliate me? She stepped down gracefully with each step, her pink rabbit skirts swaying gently as she moved. Do you want to come outside with me? Why should I do that? Because I want to be with you. He looked up at the girl standing high above him, his lips curling in disdain. Or do you want to humiliate me? The girl descended gracefully with each step, her pink rabbit skirts swaying rhythmically. Do you want to go outside with me? She asked. Why should I do that? He replied. Because I want to be with you, she said earnestly. Since Yuri X had reached a point where they could invite each other on an adventure, Kyoko wanted to give it a try. She repeated her words seriously. I want to go on an adventure with you. This sudden invitation left the abyssal demon stunned. Are you out of your mind? From his initial existence as the embodiment of despair, this was the first time he had been invited by someone without any malice or disdain. Her azure eyes were clear and pure like a pristine lake, filled with an innocence that made him uneasy. It really did make him uncomfortable. Stop saying such strange things. Yuri huffed and turned his head away as if deliberately avoiding her gaze. Before I fully recover, get out of here quickly or else I don't know what might happen to you. Inviting her had failed. Was there some special requirement? Hiao checked the adventure book again but found no answers. Was it a bug, or something else? She pondered for a long time and then pulled out a beautiful bouquet of roses from her backpack. Kneeling down with sincerity in her eyes, "Please be with me." With such an earnest gift as these universal roses, surely he would be moved. But your ex's gaze grew even more dangerous. Do you know what you're doing? If his understanding was correct, humans usually gave roses to those they cherished. Was she hinting at something? Did she want to become his companion? For some reason, this thought made him feel much better. The dark clouds in his heart dissipated, and he felt a sudden sense of joy. Though he didn't know where this feeling came from, it was indeed making him very happy. What are you doing? Yuri thought to himself. If his understanding was correct, roses were usually given as gifts to someone precious. Was the other party hinting at something? Did they want to become his consort? For some reason, this thought made him feel much better. The dark clouds in his heart dispersed instantly. Though he wasn't sure where this sudden joy came from, it certainly lifted his spirits. A smile tugged at the corners of his mouth as he moistened his lips slightly with his tongue. Yo-Yo's eyes lit up upon receiving a reply. She couldn't help but marvel at how powerful roses were. Does that mean? But before she could finish her sentence, a kiss laced with the fragrance of roses met her lips, nearly making her drop what was in her hands. The abyssal demon grabbed her collar and wrapped his other arm around her waist, pulling Yo-Yo into his embrace. Her arms rested on the firm chest of the young man as he held onto her tightly. Warmth filled their mouths. His tongue slid smoothly like a snake, at first gentle but soon growing more intense with each passing moment. As Yuri shifted back to his adult form, he bit down hard on Yo-Yo's undertip, causing blood to seep into her mouth. Tears welled up in Yo-Yo's eyes as she tried to push him away, but Yuri was quick and grabbed her wrist before she could. The silver mice-haired man smirked heavily as he used his tongue to catch the crystalline tears that fell from her eyelashes. "I've marked you with my own brand. This place is mine alone now." He kissed Yo-Yo again lightly on the lips, like a delicate butterfly fluttering over water. Yo-Yo wiped her mouth and looked at him calmly. So does this mean I'm both a demon's consort and an angel's messenger? Something felt off about it all. She wondered if they could have done something like this in the game originally. After all, their factions were completely different. For a moment Yo-Yo was lost in thought again. And then she wanted to point out that switching from boy to man during such intimate moments seemed rather strange. Was he trying to let her experience both types of kisses with just one? She couldn't help but feel slightly amused. Yo-Yo touched her lips, so that means seeing both a demon's favored and an angel's messenger. She felt something was off about it. In the game, could things really be this way? Clearly two completely different factions. For a moment, Yo-Yo fell into thought again. What she also wanted to was how in one kiss he had transformed from a boy to a man. What kind of strange magic was that? Was it meant for her to experience both types with just one kiss? The damaged white silk suspenders looked, and the black badminton cloak might also suited her taste. In the end, Yo-Yo, this high-cat a level beauty lover, felt she had hit the jackpot. So here's what happened. I seem to have become a demon's favorite. Returning outside in the mutated mine pit, Yo-Yo scratched her cheek and looked at the furious god of strife with an innocent expression. You became that damn guy's favorite, the young god whined at his eyes, disbelief written all over his face. Do you feel bitter about it, Strife? Seemingly confirming what she said, a deep he-said a demon emerged from the darkness. With silver hair and a grin on his lips, he clasped hands with Yo-Yo, while resting his chin on her shoulder. The pride in his eyes unmistakable. She's mine now. Didn't I tell you not to touch her? Sylvia, usually carefree, spoke seriously for once as he pulled Yo's other hand and tried to pull her into a hug. Did you forget my warning? Are you looking for trouble? A lowly god like yourself is quite the braggart. Even if I am a minor deity, there's still some power left in me. The two exchanged heated words. Yo-Yo felt utterly lost being sandwiched between them. It was clear their relationship wasn't good. While they argued, Yo-Yo flipped through the calendar. There are only 3 days until the fishing festival at the town at the bottom of the tower. Joe silently flipped through the calendar. There are about 3 days left until the fishing festival in the town at the bottom of the tower. Chapter 30 for Bloodthirsty Blade. In this mutated floor, Joe discovered that plants could be grown. However, they were odd and massive, twice as large as those grown outside, and some even sprouted human pests like eyes and mouths. Maybe the moon can purify them, he thought, holding moon clothes in his hands. The pure lunar light fell upon the plants, cleansing their filth completely. Obtain clean cabbage. Obtain clean corn. Unlike ordinary crops, these purified ones were almost twice as valuable and productive. High efficiency, Joe mused. Let's take some of this soil out with us now that we have a workbench. It's possible to make cultivation blocks. Joe carefully collected all the plants he had grown and without hesitation began digging up the mutated soil, filling his backpack until every corner of the mine was thoroughly excavated. The fishing festival was approaching, and Joe knew they needed to return above ground soon. He wanted to explore further, but didn't want to miss the event. Let's take out the boss in one go, he decided. We can tackle the main mission later. First, let's clear this floor. Joe opened his adventure book to defeat the boss. We need to clear the ant nest and sacrifice 5 green caterpillars. The ant nest. Let's push through and take down the boss in one go. I'll put off advancing to the next main quest for now. First, I need to defeat this floor's boss so that each time I don't have to start from scratch with leveling up and unlocking abilities. If my luck isn't good, it can really be a drag if my character doesn't fully form before being sent back. Jiao opened her adventure book. Let's see. To take on the boss, we first need to clear out the ant lair and then sacrifice 5 green caterpillars. The ant lair isn't much of an issue now. The only trouble is setting up a sacrificial altar since my crafting level isn't high enough yet. But this can be fixed by leveling up, she thought. If I make some simple items, it should do the trick. For example, stone pillars are easy to gather and don't require many materials. Just a few sets should suffice, and conveniently, I have plenty of stones on hand. After emerging from the mine, Jiao set up camp outside Green in Idma's border near the ant lair. Sure enough, my stats reappeared as soon as I came out. My hunger and thirst are still full, but my mental energy is a bit low, already halfway depleted. If I'd untrust in a safe place soon, it'll collapse from exhaustion. Unlike before, with her workbench at hand, Jiao didn't need to rely on external shelter. Crafting her own base made it feel more secure. Using an axe, she chopped down the giant green grass and collected plant fibers and small branches. On the workbench, everything was integrated perfectly into sturdy walls and a door. Due to limited materials and energy, Jiao only prepared one room for now. She had planned on sleeping briefly to boost her mental energy when suddenly Sil Ria's voice rang in her ear. Jiao lifted an eyelid. The young godling pouted as he approached, clearly upset. I don't want to sleep with that guy. Shouldn't you be the one going down? Yuri X is sat on the edge of the bed, his disdain obvious. He smirked and brushed back his silver braid. You should just go ahead and make yourself comfortable. I'm currently the most favored by Jiao. The sound reached her ears. Jiao lifted her eyelids and saw the young deity had already come over, looking pitifully close to her. He seemed to be complaining. I don't want to sleep with that guy. Shouldn't you be the one going down? Yuri X was sitting on the edge of the bed, his disdain clear in his eyes as he ran a hand through his silver braid and smirked. You should know by now that I'm the one who's got Jiao's heart. That's why Elria seethed with anger. Don't talk nonsense. You're just an annoying third wheel. Dream on. Your ex chuckled darkly. He leaned down, his lips gently touching hers as if he were pecking at grains like a chick, and even extended his tongue to lick her cold lip corner. The abyssal demon grew more arrogant by the second. This is my exclusive right. Jiao. What on earth are they doing to someone who's almost asleep? Can't they be a little more reserved? She felt utterly hopeless. Originally, she had planned to open her eyes and get up from bed to tell them to behave themselves, but the next moment, Her mental energy dropped to zero, forcing her into unconsciousness. Well, it was fine. She could sleep peacefully. But when Jiao Zhao regained consciousness, things seemed far more complicated than she had imagined, especially with the unusual weight on her body that made her highly alert even before opening her eyes. The abyssal demon was to her right and Syl Rhea to her left, one hand around her neck. His head buried in her nape, the other wrapped around her waist, his face pressed against her chest. So what exactly happened while she was out cold? What did they do? Jiao Zhao couldn't understand but was deeply impressed by it all. After carefully pulling them off herself, Jiao Zhao pondered and then seriously declared that the issue lay with insufficient bed space. I'll give you separate rooms in the future, don't worry. The NPCs at night would find their own beds to sleep in, whether ordinary or special. During this period, what on earth had they been up to? Yojo couldn't understand but was deeply shaken. After finally getting the two off her body, Yo-Yo fell into deep thought. She then lifted her head and seriously said, "I'll give you your own rooms later, don't worry. The NPCs at night would find their beds to sleep in, whether ordinary or special. NPCs were controlled by the tower's time flow, unlike players who could move freely. Perhaps it was because there was only one bed here. But didn't demons and gods not need sleep? Why did they have to fight over a bed with her?" After pondering for so long without finding an answer, Yo-Yo gave up thinking. "Let's clear the ant nest dungeon today," said Yo-Yo as she frantically crafted stone pillars at the workbench. Defeating the queen and obtaining control of the ant hill would turn them all into free labor. Just imagining it made her feel elated. This level was filled with mud, perfect for planting crops. After placing the 100th pillar in a wooden crate she had prepared earlier, Yo-Yo shouldered her bloodless blade and began to cut through enemies effortlessly. With Yo-X's drawing aggro ahead of them, Yo-Yo moved up but paused when she noticed Syl Rhea standing silently by his side. Since Yo-X's arrived, the boy seemed listless, like a wilted flower in the sun. "No, I'm fine." Surprised to see her looking at him, Syl Rhea hesitated for a moment. But what did it matter? With such a powerful demon around, he would soon be forgotten again just as before. He shouldn't have expected anything different. Yet every time she came over without hesitation, the seeds of hope planted in his heart couldn't help but grow deeper. "Are you angry? Is it because?" Syl Rhea paused for a moment, an unusual occurrence. But what did it matter? With such a powerful demon by his side, he was probably going to be forgotten again soon. Just like in the past, ending up alone once more, there shouldn't have been any expectations. Yet every time he saw her unwavering approach towards him, seeds of hope would uncontrollably take root deep within his heart. "Are you angry? Is it because of the abyssal demon?" She had simply wanted to invite him on an adventure when she first met him, but who knew that he misunderstood and claimed her as a without hesitation? It wasn't bad. No, it was more like a great deal. After all, being a king with far greater benefits than just being an ordinary adventurer. "Regarding this, I'm truly sorry, but please don't worry. Because no matter what happens, I will remain by your side as a devout believer. So can you forgive my earlier whims, dear God?" Her voice was soft and sweet, like honeyed flowers blooming in his heart. Syl Rhea felt the sound of petals unfolding. Words alone couldn't penetrate deeply, but eyes never lied. The girl's gaze was always clear and bright, without a speck of dirt. Just being looked at by her made him feel incredibly comfortable. Yo-Yo was lying. The sincerity in her eyes spoke volumes. This gave the timid god who feared loneliness some confidence. Syl Rhea crossed his arms awkwardly before turning away, revealing his true emotions to Yo-Yo. "I'm not that easy to please." Yo-Yo pondered for a moment and said, Then I'll make you more dreamflower wine." At the mention of dreamflower wine, Syl Rhea's face lit up. He chuckled, "Yeah, all right. But before that..." The young god smirked as he turned around, his eyes twinkling mischievously, like a cat about to pounce. He mimicked how the abyssal demon had kissed her and claimed ownership of her lips clumsily, leaving his mark on her. "As punishment for making an impulsive decision, I accept it," the author asks. "Which do you prefer, romance or plot?" Before that, the young deity smirked and turned lightly, imitating the abyssal demon's earlier move. The somewhat awkward young god claimed the girl's lips as his own, leaving a mark of possession on her. As punishment for making an impulsive decision, I accept it. In chapter 35, The Bloodthirsty Blade. After slaying the queen ant, he obtained the crimson demon scepter. As soon as Cao Qiao touched it, golden light burst forth, calming the ants that still wanted to attack. First came the soldier ants, then the worker ants. Looking at Qiao Shao's direction, they bowed humbly, like loyal subjects paying homage to their king. Now only the sacrificial altar remains. Holding the scepter and riding an ant, Qiao crossed her arms over her chest. She began planning for what was next. She already had 2 sets of stone pillars that she had been tirelessly crafting day and night. Now they were at a perfect level. Maybe I should start with opening up some farmland first. After all, we have so many new employees, how can they be titled right from the beginning? The only downside was that ants couldn't clear land themselves. They could only provide water and nutrients to crops during planting periods. To get tools for digging soil, we need to develop livestock farming too. Pigs not only sell truffles but also help with tilling. However, raising animals is a hassle. First, she needed to manage her relationship well with the rancher, then plant enough grass to feed them. And daily care was essential, otherwise, those little creatures would run away without looking back. In an earlier save file, this happened just as her farm's quick money making system started up. Because of neglecting animal intimacy for too long, she forgot to close the gate one day due to a sudden ask. How do you all prefer? Romance or plot development? I originally planned to fill in some gaps casually, but ended up writing more and more. 100k words won't be enough. Annoyed. As we approach Ray's line, it's something to celebrate. Indeed, it's just that surviving is so tough. Tears. Managing relationships and planting enough grass to feed the animals was a daily routine. If she wasn't careful, those low-lying attachment creatures would bolt out of their enclosures like heartless lovers. In her previous save file, this had happened while her farm's quick mulhor strategy seemed promising. Neglecting animal affection led to half her livestock disappearing one day, when she forgot to close the gate for an urgent task. But I still need to raise some animals, she thought. For example, pigs could help till the soil and rabbits were valuable as their fur was currency among magic merchants. Jiao returned to her makeshift base atop an ant's back. After dismounting, she set about tilling the land with fervor. A4X for planting pattern yielded the best results, maximizing crop size and profits. Seeds that didn't complete a full grid were stored temporarily in reserve boxes. Satisfied after her hard work, Zhou handed off tasks to the ants while she began crafting an altar of sacrifice at her workstation. 5 iron ingots, 20 stones, 1 red wool blanket. With materials gathered, assembly was next. But since this was a this level crafted item, it took much longer than usual. During that extra time, some mischievous entities crept in like the petty god and the bored demon. Though they despised each other, there was something eerily similar about them. The demon lounged on her lap, idly toying with her hair as she worked. The young deity circled behind her, gently holding her waist while his eyes gleamed mischievously at the sight of Zhao Weijiao's hands moving. At first, it was fine. Zhao Yui focused on crafting without much attention to them. But as time passed, their antics grew bolder and more daring. As she neared completion of her altar, things began to get messy because the young god tapped his arms around her waist from behind. As he watched the movements of her hands with a mischievous glint in his eyes, he used a gentle touch of divine power to blow away Yuri's excess hand. At first, it was fine since Chiu was focused on what she was doing and didn't have extra energy for them. But as time went by, their antics became more brazen and unrestrained. Just when the construction of the sacrificial altar had reached its final stage, 2 squabbling kittens rule and everything, nearly causing Qiao to see stars. So, with a very amiable smile, she gave both of them an equally fair smack on the head. Yuri calmed softly after getting smacked. With no remorse in his eyes, he said confidently, "Who told you not to pay attention to me? And as my vassal, isn't it your duty to please me?" Silria watched Yuri get hit but ignored that she had received the same treatment herself. She covered her mouth and chuckled mischievously. "Serves him right. Are you still blaming me? Yuri X stuck at his lips with a wet tongue licking over his fangs, looking very dangerous. And didn't you sneakily eat your share first? I was just cleaning up some impurities. Silvio responded to Yuri X's provocation without fear and even moved closer to the girl as if on purpose. Under her gaze, he planted a light kiss on her lips. Your exclusive right no longer exists. As long as it didn't go deeper than that, they wouldn't trigger the Of the Demon contract. This move clearly irritated Yuri X. If you want to die, just say so. I won't mind sending you to Death God. What big talk, Silvio feigned surprise. The petty god was quite adept at being sarcastic. Don't come crying to me if the Death God drags you away. The two of them started fighting like bulldogs while Tia simply rubbed her temples. Let them fight as much as they wanted, it didn't matter as long as they didn't tear down her house. Both god and demon were formidable, each bout causing significant destruction around them. But to Xiao, feeling quite accomplished, if you get dragged off by the Death God of Darkness later, don't come crying to me for help. The two aggressively began tearing things apart like a couple of yapping dogs, while Yo simply massaged her temples, finally finding some peace. Let them fight as they will, it's all good so long as they don't destroy her house. Gods and demons are formidable, each clash destroying much around them. But occasionally, the scraps left behind by their battles can be useful for Yo-Yo to scavenge up raw materials. Looking at the waste on her workbench, she felt a twinge of pain in her pocketbook and thought about building another processor specifically to convert these useless items into something usable. Thankfully, I still have some stock. Stones and iron ingots are easy enough, one can be picked up along any path while the other just needs melting. But red cotton blankets are tricky, requiring both a treadle sewing machine and dye from her alchemy workbench. I'm glad I looted plenty of supplies in that town at the base level, she thought with relief. Otherwise, it'd have been stuck here. Yo-Yo laid out more materials on her work table. I'll just finish this before they're done fighting. Author's note. Thank you to all who voted for me or sent nutrition liquid during 2027-26p, 11/2020 to 10/3/9/26 p.m. 44. Special thanks go out to the anonymous voter and those who sent bottles of nutrition liquid. Chapter 30(6). The second floor, weapon bloodthirsty blade. Placing the sacrificial altar on a broad patch of earth, Yo-Yo arranged 5 enormous green caterpillars as instructed before initiating the ritual. Live blood might shone forth suddenly. The bodies of the caterpillars were torn apart, their viscous green fluid spilling out to form, and as a magical arrays entered around the altar. Then, in a flash, she was teleported away. Am I alone? From that blinding light, spread across the white soil, Xiao placed 5 enormous green caterpillars in their designated spots and initiated the ritual. Lay blood glow appeared as the corpses of the caterpillars suddenly burst open. Green viscous fluid flowed out from within them, forming a blinding magic circle centered on the sacrificial altar. Then, in an instant, Xiao was teleported away. Am I alone? Regaining her senses from the dazzling light, she dusted off her skirt and stood up. Her first action was to open her adventure book to check for group invitations. Yuri's name remained on the list, but he wasn't there. According to logic, players should be automatically teleported next to their teammates after being transported. But this wasn't a big deal, she could solo kill just fine anyway. Grouping up was mostly about the sense of camaraderie or showbiting. Kuyo usually fell into the latter category. Since her teammates were special NPCs, they respond quickly even if killed. Due to the boss battle's nature, these NPCs generally appeared right next to players rather than returning to Sacred Spring. Guaranteeing she wouldn't die herself allowed infinite grinding of NPCs. Of course, she could also give them attack salt team synergy talents, turning them into super strong main damage dealers. Kyoseo of tormenting her teammates during the off-man season. I love making friends with pretty girls. Stay here, stay here, stay here. Melt together with Celia. That was a sweet yet slightly sickly voice, as it echoed through the darkness. Xiao saw health bars appearing in front of her eyes. It seemed to be a cave based on the game's setting for dark environments. She couldn't see anything at all. Tattered outside with thunder rumbling loudly, especially clear within the cave. Following the thunder came lightning, that split open the sky. The flash was blinding and briefly restored players' vision as it entered through an opening in the ceiling. TL saw something moving rapidly along the walls, but because of how far away the lightning struck, her view flickered momentarily before darkening again. The darkness was almost encompassing, making it hard to see anything. The rain drummed and thunder roared, echoing clearly in the cave. After the rumble of thunder came a bolt of lightning that split the sky. The flash illuminated the room briefly, allowing players' vision to return momentarily. Yo-Yo saw something moving swiftly along the walls but couldn't pinpoint the boss's exact location due to the briefness and intensity of the lightning strike. But it didn't matter, true warriors face everything head on. Boldness is key. With this inexplicable confidence, Yo-Yo charged in first, hacking wildly with her sword. It looked like a flurry of skillful strikes, but she was mostly slashing at empty air. Those spider bears are such a pain. The ground was covered in sticky webs that clung to anything they touched. She had to struggle for ages to free herself from each one, and worse still, the webs were laced with poison, each step adding another layer of toxic effects. After clearing out nearby spider bears, Yo-Yo swung her sword again, charging recklessly at the boss once more. The creature clung to the walls, nimble and elusive, but repeated strikes increased her chances of hitting it. Why did I reject Celia? Let's become friends with Celia and everyone else. Let's get along well from now on. The thunder crashed again, this time directly above them. Solid rock shattered as lightning struck the ceiling, sending rainwater cascading into the cave. The sudden burst of light brightened the room, though it also made things more eerie. A purple bone-jowled girl stood there, her delicate face sculpted with perfect features and almond-shaped eyes that were beautiful to behold if one ignored the massive spider legs beneath her and the skeletal remains hanging from webs behind her. Being able to see is a huge help. With sight restored, she wouldn't easily lose direction. Yo-Yo swung her sword effortlessly, clearing all visible spider bears in preparation for battle. The scene was like a painting save for the massive spider chassis beneath her, and the skeletal remains hanging from webs behind her. But seeing is better than not, she thought, relieved to have sight on her side. It would be easier to avoid getting lost in this labyrinthine environment. Yo-Yo casually flicked her knife around, swiftly cutting through every visible strand of webbing to prevent any surprises during combat. The spider threads come from the mouths of those skeletal figures behind me. Dodging Celia's venomous spray, Yo-Yo rolled out from behind a stone wall and continued running along its edge. As her bloodthirsty blade was about to strike one of the skeletons, a sudden burst of white threads appeared beside her, enveloping her in a sticky web. Please don't harm my important friend. Frustrating. Can't forgive it, can't forgive it, can't forgive it. Seemingly angered by Yo-Yo's actions, Celia's face twisted into an expression that was far from cute. She charged towards Yo-Yo like a madman. Fortunately for Yo-Yo, she quickly slashed through the web and used her momentum to flip in mid-sear as Celia struck her. After rolling several times on the ground to absorb the impact, she stood up once more. This boss had anger levels. Each attack on her companions seemed to raise them by one notch. With increased fury came height and aggression, but also greater vulnerability, more openings for Yo-Yo to exploit. Red warning signs appeared on the floor as Celia's venomous battle became faster and deadlier under this rage-induced state. But compared to all that, Yo-Yo's survival tactics were unmatched. Her bloodthirsty blade sliced through the air with deadly precision, delivering a final blow to the boss. The girl summoned my-shaped eyes wide and in disbelief as she was sent flying far away, embedding herself into the stone wall. None touched Celia's friend. Even severely injured, her first concern remained those skeletal remains hanging from webs behind her. The superior technique prevailed. A bloodthirsty blade sliced through the sky, delivering the final blow to the boss. The girl's and monkey-shaped eyes narrowed in disbelief at her defeat as she was sent flying by Yo-Yo, embedding herself deep into a stone wall. Don't touch Celia's friend, please, even with such severe injuries. The first thing the lavender menace-haired girl noticed was the cold skeletal figures, hanging like puppets on spider webs. No, sorry about that. I shouldn't have been so rough, so can you stop crying now? The pain she had expected didn't come. Instead, A warm hand touched her face. Celia's eyelashes trembled as she saw Yo-Yo's soft blue eyes, was gently wiping away the tears from Celia's cheeks. Celia pulled back at first, but then let herself be comforted by that warmth like basking in sunlight on a sunny day long ago. Then, Yo-Yo smiled again and spoke softly. My name is Yo-Yo. If you don't mind, can we be friends? 37. The second floor weapon bloodthirsty blade. First she beat up everyone else, then invited them to join her gun. Only someone like you could do such a thing. But the beautiful girl had no fault. She wanted to hug and kiss cute girls. No one can stop her. Do you want to be friends with Celia? The lavender-haired girl's eyes sparkled as if stars were falling into them, hesitating slightly at Yo-Yo's outstretched hand. But my brother said that Celia is very ugly, so no one dares to get close. You. Only Chiao could pull this off. But the beautiful girl had no fault. She wanted to hug and be close with other girls, and nobody could stop her. Want to become friends with Celia? The purple glosses sparkled like stars falling into them. Facing Chiao's outstretched hand, she hesitated a bit. But my brothers all say that Celia is very ugly, so no one dares to get close to her. You don't mind Celia's appearance. Her almond-thin shaped eyes were filled with pitiful innocence, like a lost animal in the forest, making Chiao, who was an extreme beauty enthusiast, instantly lose herself under this stunning girl's charm. She is truly an angel. How could anyone say she looked ugly? It was simply unforgivable to speak such words about a beautiful girl. In my eyes, Celia is a very cute girl. Seeing her still hesitant, Chiao reached out and held the cold hand of the, lifting her gaze with a gentle smile on her lips. Cute? Seemingly in disbelief at what she heard, Celia's face turned red as if it was burning hot, especially when their hands touched. This was the first time someone had said such words to her and held her hand so gently, perhaps because of nervousness. Celia stumbled over her words for a moment, afraid that her awkwardness would ruin everything. If you don't say anything, you'll take it as an agreement. Then from today on, we are friends. Suddenly she felt like having another cute little sister around. Sweet and soft girls were indeed more endearing than the cats at home, who always fought with each other. Xiao held her hand and walked forward while Celia followed cautiously behind. Peeking over Chiao's shoulder, the purple fort slowed down to match her pace, as if she was a spider moving in tandem with her steps. This little sister was simply too adorable and considerate. It made Chiao's lips curl into a soft smile. She thought for a moment before asking, "Do you want to leave this place?" From here, the cave was her sanctuary, the only refuge where she could escape from her brothers, who despised her appearance. To Celia, this place held no fear or worry. The spider was a swift creature, but it seemed that the purple base-haired girl had slowed her pace to match hers. She thought tenderly and cutely. She paused for a moment before asking, "Do you want to live here, Celia? Do you want to leave?" This cave was her sanctuary, the only place where she could escape from her brothers who despised her appearance. For Celia, it had always been a safe haven. Leaving this secure refuge for the outside world seemed like an unimaginable feat before. She feared the blinding light and the cold stares of others, until she met adventurers from beyond the tower. They pierced through the mist, casting their light upon her once more, igniting new hope within her. Yo-Yo nodded at Celia with a smile. "Let's go on an adventure together. I'd be happy to come along if you want me to." The sunlight filtered in again, warming everything around them. Encouraged by this gentle light, the purple-haired girl nervously bit her lip and nodded firmly. Bringing back such a cute sister made Yo-Yo incredibly happy. "Don't just bring strange things home without any reason, Yuri." Yo says, "Should we take a look back now?" Since their initial meeting, the spider girl had been radiating cold menace. Her human face even showed hints of an arachnid's features as her sharp teeth bared in warning. Not dangerous or unlike anything they did encountered on the road before. Yuri-X knew all too well about Celia's nature, a creature that could kill and devour its own brother without hesitation. Daubed with these huffy words, Yo-Yo sighed. He turned his head back as Yuri-X suggested, only to see Celia had put away her threatening demeanor, and returned to an innocent look, even shyly hiding behind him. Her moist eyes sparkled brightly. Sorry. Those wet eyes pierced straight into Yo-Yo's heart, stirring a protective urge. Yo-Yo shot the abyssal demon a reproachful glance before shielding Celia with his body. Your ex is, you scared her. Don't be so fierce. Celia is such a good child. As soon as he turned back around, the purple band-haired girl had already shed her fearful look and returned to her menacing self. Your ex. Her face changed faster than pages in a book. Seeing your ex is get the short end of the stick made Celia laugh more joyfully than anyone else. It was time for some compromise. The young god intended to fly over to Yo-Yo's side and wrap his arms around her as usual. But just as he reached out, a white spider web suddenly shot towards him. He ended up empty-handed. Celia didn't say much about being the victim. It was Celia who pulled on Yo-Yo's sleeve first. Red she backed because Celia seemed to be going for you. Did I make Yo-Yo angry? How could I get mad at such a cute girl? Soft and sweet girls were meant to be pampered. How could he bear to be upset with her? With that thought in mind, Yo-Yo smiled as he ruffled Celia's hair. I should apologize. Celia scared you. Celia, looks like you're full of confidence, she said, but how impressive is it really? So Celia didn't hold back and attacked. Did Celia make Qiaojiao angry? How could I possibly be angry? Thinking that she was meant to be pampered, Qiaojiao smiled as she gently stroked the purple head. It should have been me apologizing. Celia must be scared you. Celia, seeing how confident you looked, I thought you were something special. Yuri sneered with a hint of schadenfreude. Chapter 38. Fishing Festival in the town at the bottom of the tower. Returning to the town at the bottom of the tower, it was as peaceful and tranquil as always. Especially when she saw the perfectly tended farm by her loyal two people, Komeisou felt a sense of homecoming. With a casual sweep through the fields, followed by sowing seeds once more, there were enough willing two people here for Qiaojiao to manage without summoning ants with her red demon staff. Don't give me that look, spider. While Qiao was busy in the field, Yuri suddenly noticed a cold gaze fixed on him. As he turned around, he saw Celia's malicious eyes staring back at him. The abyssal devil clicked his tongue and narrowed his eyes. I hate you too, just like that. Celia doesn't allow you to get close to Qiaojiao. Unlike her previous shy demeanor when facing Qiaojiao, the spider girl now showed more rejection and dissatisfaction as she declared firmly in this tense atmosphere. Qiaojiao is Celia's alone. What nonsense are you talking? Did being stuck in a cave for too long damage your brain? Yuri met such intense hostility with an indifferent smile. With a flick of his hand, he easily blocked the spider threads from her, and blue flames burned fiercely as the sticky strands were incinerated into black dots that dissipated into thin air. The next moment, his dark boots stepped onto the grass. The silver white-haired devil tilted his head slightly and proudly stuck out his tongue, which bore a mark of contract. Already left my mark on her. I'm sorry to say this, but our bond isn't something you can sever with your flimsy threads. The mist dissipated into the air. A pair of black boots with roots stepped onto the grass. The silver mace-head demon casually tilted his head and stuck out his tongue, marked by an intricate symbol. He spoke in a boastful tone. I've left my mark on that guy. Sorry about that, he said, but the bond I share with her isn't something your flimsy thread can sever. While Yu was leisurely tending to her crops, Celia took advantage of the chaos and quietly flew over to where the girl was focused intently. Would you like an apple? Yo-Yo looked up just in time to see the young god perched on a tree branch with a smile. His bare feet dangled playfully as he held a large red apple, its juicy flesh glistening from recent bites. She nodded without much thought, sure. But then, right after she agreed, the boy smiled mischievously, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. A kiss as light as a feather descended, carrying the faint scent of apples. The fruit slipped silently to the ground while he gently cradled her face in both hands and pressed their lips together soft and full like a butterfly sipping nectar from a flower. His careful tongue guided an apple slice into her mouth, saliva mixed with juice, creating a sweet blend that made Yo-Yo momentarily confused. How is it? Sweet? He blew softly in her ear, as if he had just pulled off some playful trick. Yo-Jo. It was rather sudden. Do gods usually give apples this way? But what bothered Yo-Yo more was something else. She thought for a moment. My tongue has already been marked by the demon. How did you manage to stick yours in? Didn't think I could do that, huh? Like a mischievous child who had just pulled off a successful prank. Xiao blew a breath in her ear after he was done with his test. Xiao, it happened so suddenly. But what she really cared about was something else. After a moment of thought, she asked, my tongue has been marked by a demon. How did you manage to stick yours in? You underestimate me, Xiao said with a tilt of his head and a hint of pride. That kind of backlash isn't much for me. I just need to cast a simple protective spell on my tongue. She nodded thoughtfully. So what about now? Is the protection still active? Xiao raised an eyebrow. Of course. Qiao smiled. Got it. Then there shouldn't be any issues. But before she could finish her sentence, his lips were once again covered by hers. This time he was the one being kissed, and his eyes wide and in surprise. He fell from the tree trunk to the ground where grass brushed against his feet. Perhaps because of this sudden kiss, he pressed himself tightly against a nearby tree out of nervousness. She softly bit and teased him as her warm breath danced across his face, filling it with the scent of youth. Xiao held onto his shoulders when she felt his tongue moving deeper into her mouth. Both body and heart began to tremble slightly. This inexperienced young god couldn't help but let out a low moan as he blushed furiously. So don't tease me anymore, Xiao said breathlessly. Qiao looked at him, now weak-kneed and leaning against the tree. She felt victorious. This is your punishment for all you've done. With her fingertips, she gently wiped away his tears of surprise from under his eyes. I didn't expect a god to look so cute when kissed, Qiao whispered softly. Author's note. Chapter 1. Thanks to everyone who read. Yo-Yo finally felt a sense of sweet revenge as the divine youth in her arms went limp and leaned against the tree behind him. She gently wiped away the tears that had welled up at his eyes with the tip of her finger. I didn't expect you to look so adorable after being kissed, she said, taking control of the situation. Chapter 39. Festival of Fishing in the Tower Town. After kissing and getting a taste of revenge, the youth seemed even more eager to cling to Yo-Yo like a kitten. I want this today too. He nuzzled her cheek with his nose as if he were pecking at it. When she didn't respond immediately, he pouted and drew closer. If you don't pay attention to me. Yo-Yo held up a hand to stop him from getting any nearer. Or in the middle of the street, she said with a hint of exasperation. Today was the festival of fishing, one of the liveliest days in the Tower Town. Colorful flowers and balloons decorated many houses around them. The usually quiet streets were now bustling with people, though most NPCs looked rather generic and gave her an eerie feeling at times. Seemed a bit bored by all this human revelry. I don't really care for their festivals. Then why not stay on the farm with Urias? The divine youth smiled. I'm interested in you, he said as he flew to stand before her. When I'm around you, interesting things happen. And honestly, I want to know more about you. She paused and looked up at him, a slight hesitation in her step. Celia continued smiling and raised his finger. Chapter 39. Festival of Fishing in the Tower Town. After kissing and getting a taste of revenge, the youth seemed even more eager to cling to Yo-Yo like a kitten. I want this today too. He nuzzled her cheek with his nose as if he were pecking at it. When she didn't respond immediately, he pouted and drew closer. If you don't pay attention to me, I'll do it myself. Yo-Yo held up a hand to stop him from getting any nearer. Or in the middle of the street, she said with a hint of exasperation. Today was the festival of fishing, one of the liveliest days in the Tower Town. Colorful flowers and balloons decorated many houses around them. The usually quiet streets were now bustling with people, though most NPCs looked rather generic and gave her an eerie feeling at times. Celia seemed a bit bored by all this human revelry. I don't really care for their festivals. Then why not stay on the farm with Urias? The divine youth smiled. I'm interested in you, he said as he flew to stand before her. When I'm around you, interesting things happen. And honestly, I want to know more about you. She paused and looked up at him, a slight hesitation in her step. Celia continued smiling and raised his finger. Couldn't we just stay at the farm together? She asked. The young god smiled and flew in front of her. But I'm interested in you, he said, his voice light and playful. Just being with you will make things interesting. And to be honest, I want to know more about you. At these words, she lifted her head slightly, hesitating for a moment before continuing forward. Once Arya was still smiling as he raised one finger to his lips in a playful gesture. His eyes crinkled with mischief. Of course, after all, you're my only believer. How does that make you feel? Special, like being favored by a god. She felt touched, perhaps for the first time since entering the tower. He asked, Do you have any wishes? Why do you ask? She replied. You should know this place is known as the Miracle Tower. It can grant any wish. And those who enter it are chosen by the tower because they harbor strong desires. Without a desire, one wouldn't even find their way to its entrance. If pressed, her only wish was to leave the tower and return to her own world. She said, I want to go home. Yes, Arya looked at her with some confusion. To go back. But why did you come here in the first place? That question had puzzled her too. She couldn't remember who the protagonist was supposed to be according to the game's original setting. Thinking about it does seem strange, she mused, but soon turned her thoughts elsewhere, as the fishing competition at the Eastern Lake loomed near. The tournament would take place in two locations, the Eastern Lake and the Southern River. Players had to compete with NPC villagers for rankings. Whoever caught fish worth more points within a given time frame would rank higher, and only those who placed first through third would receive star beads, valuable currency that could be exchanged at the mayor's office. Yo-Yo was prepared. In her backpack were delicate fishing rods and other tools she had crafted on workbenches using F2 commands. The fishing competition took place in two locations, a lake to the east and a river to the south. Players had to compete with NPC villagers for rankings. Whoever caught fish worth more points within the allotted time would rank higher, and only those who ranked first, second, or third would receive star beads that could be exchanged at the mayor's office for desired rewards. T came prepared. In her backpack was a delicate fishing rod and bait made from green caterpillar stones she had crafted on her workbench using F2. Long time no see, Tiao. A familiar figure suddenly appeared in front of her right after she signed up at the registration desk. The young man's smile remained as soft as ever. I knew you'd come. Tiao smiled back and greeted him warmly. Indeed, it has been a while, Mingji. The only person worth noting during this competition was his superior equipment, a divine fishing rod that outmatched everyone else's, though once she gained enough affection points with him. May, speaking of which, Tiao hadn't seen Nate in quite some time. With Mooney as her familiar, she no longer feared being polluted by curses and could chat normally without losing health while doing so. Even though I didn't find his favorite stone from the mines, rose petals should work just as well. Thanks to diligent labor at the farm, Tiao Kuiyao now had an abundance of roses. Chapter 40 F3. It seemed there was no one worth fighting against. Since she swapped out her old beginner's fishing rod for a better one, Tiao's skills improved dramatically. With bait thrown into the water and bubbles rising to the surface, she smoothly reeled in fish after fish without missing a beat. She quickly placed each catch into the bucket of water, with swift flicks of her wrists. Since the start of the competition, Tiao had been at the top of the rankings. Even divine fishing rods aren't as powerful as I imagined. But since we're collecting them, might as well get the best quality. Her fishing skill points had maxed out without her noticing. Now she no longer needed tools. With just a flick of her wrist, Tiao could complete all tasks effortlessly. In the midst of it all, the girl didn't even blink as she rapidly cast her fishing rod. Since the start of the competition, Zhou had held the top spot on the leaderboard. Seems like that godly fishing rod isn't quite up to par. But since we're collecting them anyway, might as well get the best quality. Her skill points in fishing, so now Zhou didn't need any tools. She could easily complete the full map of the tower with just this exquisite fishing rod. As they say, it's better to have something and not use it than to be without it altogether. Zhang's was already quite high. He was likely going to max out soon thanks to the doubled affection boost during festivals. She might even get a chance to use that golden fishing rod in the South Forest competition. Yui still as amazing as ever. The results were clear when the match ended. First place went to JoJo, second to Mingji, and third to an unnamed NPC villager. The gap between them was like a chasm. It seemed almost impossible for anyone else to catch up. After all, ordinary NPCs weren't exactly formidable. They were just there as cannon fodder for the system. Scrolling through the leaderboard, JoJo noticed some players even had negative points. Ridiculous. I still have quite a way to go, Mengji said cheerfully after the match. Despite his loss, you'll practice harder and challenge you again next time. Looking forward to it, replied JoJo with a smile. It would probably be long before then. She had already explored most of the maps in the bottom Maze town. The next festival was still some way off. Ma Yinxiao's godly fishing rod might have been claimed by her unless someone like Aid became along and truly cared about it. People's enthusiasm for such things would drop significantly. Speaking of which, there are only 2 days left until the South Forest competition. As she rummaged through her bag, JoJo murmured to herself. Then, without hesitation, she pulled out a bunch of fresh red roses and handed them to Mingji. The young man was taken aback. His dark scene flushed with pleasure. I really like them. Then he asked, will you stay here? JoJo pondered that. The competition for Lin was still 2 days away. Zhao Zhao murmured to herself as she sorted through the contents of her bag. Then, without hesitation, she pulled out a bouquet of bright red roses and handed them to Mingji. Is this for me? The young man was slightly taken aback, his dark skin flushing with an obvious blush. He asked next, will you stay here after that? Zhao Zhao pondered the question. Maybe I'll stick around a few days because there are some things to take care of, she replied. Like managing the farm's operations, replenishing materials from the wild, and setting up necessary workstations. There was still plenty left to do. The young man suddenly smiled mysteriously. Then let's meet after your second competition. I have something important to tell you. Finding Abby wasn't difficult. As a cursed child, he kept his distance from crowds but wouldn't be too far from the town because of his role as an inspector at the bottom of the tower. This narrowed JoJo's search considerably. Riding on JoJo's transformation into a white dot, she darted through the streets like the wind. Is this the black butterfly by Abby's side? As soon as she reached the edge of town, an ominous curse scent carried in the breeze. Raising her head, JoJo saw a flash of black and felt pressure bearing down on her. If her reflexes were any slower, she would have been knocked off. Lei Weikanchu with dark hair was now lying across her shoulders, blood seeping through his clothes as he panted heavily, his brows furrowed in pain. It had to be Abby. So what's going on here? JoJo asked, looking up at the young man's nearly depleted health bar. The danger loomed again from above. With a jolt of awareness, she rolled off Geo with Abby wrapped tightly around her. A razor-sharp dagger shot through the air where they had just been standing and embedded itself into the stone wall behind them. In an instant, transparent ice formed at its tip, freezing the entire house. Did you miss? An old man in a rabbit mask stood there, his hand still raised with several throwing knives between his fingers. His voice was as calm as water, devoid of any emotion. But next time it won't be so lucky. Razor mowing burst through the air where they had just been standing, embedding itself straight into a stone wall behind. In an instant, transparent ice spread from the tip of the blade and froze the entire house. Did I miss? The speaker was a tall man in a rabbit mask. He held his hand up, with several throwing knives still wedged between his fingers. His voice was as calm as water, devoid of any emotion. But next time you won't be so lucky. With that icy tone, more razor blades whizzed through the air. Yo-Yo gritted her teeth and pulled out a ring from her finger, transforming it into a branch with green leaves. She swung it fiercely, sending all incoming knives clattering to the ground. She had been ready to charge in head first, but Ada Bell attacked at Yo-Yo's sleeve just as black butterflies swarmed around them, their curses reaching peak intensity and overwhelming her senses. When the butterflies vanished, Yo-Yo found herself standing in a new location outside of town. F3 Phantom Staircase. Player level 40. Health points 30,000. Killed monster 0. Death is floor 0. Yo-Yo stared blankly at the system interface floating before her. To enter F3, she would need to reach a high enough reputation in F to S Pro Kingdom and complete daily quests. She must have skipped floors somehow. Bella is badly injured. With that thought out of mind, Yo-Yo turned her attention to Bella, who had fallen unconscious. She gently lifted the young man and carefully propped him against the wall. Reaching into her pack, she pulled out a medical bandage she had been saving for years. She wrapped it tightly around his waist in a neat bow, successfully stopping the bleeding. Upstairs, I collected lots of healing items but left them at the farm. After all, things had happened too quickly, and she hadn't had time to prepare. She lifted him up and carefully guided him to the wall. Then she rummaged through her backpack, pulling out a medical bandage that had been stored for ages. After successfully applying it in a large ball around his wounded waist to stop the bleeding, Yo-Yo let out a huge sigh of relief. There were many healing items collected on the upper floor, but they're all kept in boxes at the farm. After all, things happened too quickly, she hadn't had time to prepare. Yo-Yo sighed and stood up, looking ahead where 3 familiar starting weapon chests awaited her challenge. Let's see if I can find some medicine here first. Chapter 41. Things seemed serious. No, not just a bit, extremely so. Not only was she being hunted by the masked man, who made no sense and forced her to jump directly from the 2nd floor to this one, but 2 days later there were still fishing competitions to attend and an appointment with Ming-Ji. Once you miss out on a good relationship event, it won't trigger again. Ming's show affection towards her had prompted him to invite her for a date. Yo-Yo knew exactly why he did so. She even secretly anticipated the feel of holding that legendary fishing rod. Yo-Yo, ouch JPG. Let's go for speed run then. We can't afford any more losses. A slow approach won't work. From the start, we need to have explosive power and dive straight into a no maze hold souls my smart mode. Wrist coin when flipped, it shows either great fortune or misfortune. If it's good luck, the coin will clear all threats around you for 3 minutes with a lucky effect. If it's bad luck, your health is reduced by 20% of your total life value randomly. Rabbit Bomb, obtain a fluffy rabbit backpack from which you can pull out soft rabbits that have a 10% chance to spit out an item, restoring 50% of the user's HP when thrown at enemies. The coin will clear all threats around the player and grant them a 3-minute lucky effect. If it lands on extreme danger, random health points are deducted from the player. The deduction won't exceed 20% of their total life. In neutral situations, players may randomly receive holy relics or curses. Rabbit Bomb, obtain a fluffy rabbit backpack that can release skewed rabbits with a 10% chance to spit out carrots, restoring 50% health for both allies and enemies. Death Seed, the seed dropped by the Green Reaper carries a curse. Each attack has a 75% chance of cursing an enemy up to 4 layers. Restoring blood for enemies is quite bizarre. Could this rabbit be an insider? After carefully reading through the contents of the chest, Jiao Kang noted several new weapons she had never seen before. The Death Sieve looks good, but it's more suited as a supportive weapon in stacking curses. Eyed out, I can stand up and fight away. Finally, there was Risk Coin. Honestly speaking, Xiao's gambling nature hadn't changed since the beginning of this adventure. She had been very excited about this coin from the start. With a 50% chance to clear all threats, it seemed quite promising. If she could get matching relics or talents later on, wouldn't that be amazing? An African chief at heart but with iron determination, Is explored room by room. Kriya held the transformed coin in her hand and focused back on reality. She looked ahead. There are 3 colored doors up front: red for challenge rooms, gold for shops, green for random events. After a long moment of contemplation, she glanced at B, who was still unconscious on the ground before stepping into the shop. Adventurer from outside the tower, said the store owner with a warm smile. It's been so long, let's see what you need first. The man had shoulder-length hair and was named Kado, second in line among the vampire siblings, brother to Akai Abara, the gift merchant, and sister Jessica of Blood Shop. Balance of Fate. The scale is divided into black and white sides. It's been a long time since we last met. Let's see what there is to pick up. This was the shop that sold talents, and ever since clearing phone, Yo-Yo hadn't visited here in ages. Before her stood the man with long hair, the store owner Kado, who happened to be the second of the vampire siblings. He was also the brother of Arcabella, the gift merchant, and Jessica. Balance of black and white scale that randomly swaps weapons for players, on one side black or talents and relics on the other white, with each swap taking place every 5 minutes, 500 gold coins. Archangel's harp, an instrument left behind by an archangel who saved the world. It possesses divine power, allowing anyone to play the most beautiful music imaginable. When a player suffers a fatal blow, it destroys itself and restores their health bar 400 gold coins. Poker Ambition players receive a deck of cards each time they enter a new room. Drawing one card grants an enhancement for that floor. Drawing a curse means discarding the card 600 gold coins. Refresh 10 gold coins. The talents refreshing this time seemed particularly strong, especially Poker Ambition, which offered permanent enhancements. The harp and poker are both good choices. Yo-Yo mused, but I've spent all my coins on slot machines before. The Archangel's harp could withstand one fatal blow, essentially giving an extra health bar. The Poker Ambition provided a continuous blessing that greatly increased survival rates within the floors, but since she was aiming for speed runs, relics with offensive abilities would be better. So Yo chose Poker Ambition in the end. And now her voice trailed off as she glanced at the slot machine in the corner of the shop. After all, why not? Though it wasn't her main goal here. Pulling a lever gives you tiger tokens. You can exchange them for what you need on the counter beside the machine. With that, Yo-Yo inserted several fireflies into the slot machine. The machine clanked and whirred as its display spun rapidly, icons flashing wildly before settling down to reveal. In the corner of the shop stood a slot machine. After all, she was here anyway, though her main purpose was to play it. Spin for tiger tokens and exchange them at the counter for whatever you need. Yo-Yo explained as she inserted several fireflies into the slot machine. The clunking sound echoed through the room before the screen began spinning wildly, resulting in nothing but disappointment. Well, she always trusted her instincts when it came to this sort of thing. Yo-Yo scratched her cheek and walked over to the counter, where a system page popped up. Woodcats unprocessed from trees chopped down by axes, 1 tiger token. Minor stone cats and unremarkable pebbles found along the roadside, 1 tiger token. Mawing furnace tool for smelting ores, 20 tiger tokens. Mai's clear glass cup made from sand can hold liquids, 5 tiger tokens. She needed materials to make a workbench. Only with that could she brew herbs and help Pat be recover faster. He was out of immediate danger, but couldn't stay in this state forever. Stone, nails, iron ingots. Yo-Yo counted carefully. And I should get some new ingredients too. I learned how to increase luck through cooking. She stuffed her bag with the items she needed and headed back home. Tiger tokens nearly depleted. Back at their room, Yo-Yo sat beside Abby and began crafting a workbench from her newly acquired materials. First make a bed, then a pot. Might as well get a furnace too, she mused. With a workbench, Yo-Yo lay on the bed to save her spawn point and then dragged Abby onto it. His health increased slightly but slowly. She rubbed her chin thoughtfully. It back heals, but not fast enough. This slow recovery would take ages. Her legendary fishing rod couldn't wait that long. No way was she letting this happen. She had to collect everything compulsively. She saved her respawn point and then pulled Abby onto the bed. A green number with a decimal appeared above his head. Reaching up to touch her chin, she mused, the bed can heal wounds, but it's slow. A few tenths of healing every now and then. It would take an eternity for her to fully recover, and if that happened, wouldn't her divine fishing rod be wasted? She couldn't let this happen. She'd die on the spot from her collection obsession. With these thoughts in mind, Yo-Yo quickened her pace. She brought a pot of boiling water, and without hesitation threw every remaining ingredient into it. The herbs mixed with crushed ingredients turned the clear water green within minutes. She popped open the wooden cork and poured all the healing potion into the mixture without spilling a drop. She slowly approached Tatiabi. I've never given medicine to my teammates before. Should I make him drink everything? But then again, could someone in a coma even swallow it? 42. While she had been daydreaming about some romantic scene of feeding medicine mouth from her favorite manga, the system popped up with an option for using a potion. Well, this was fine too. Loss of Vitality Potion X1. The bottle glowed faintly as it hovered in mid-Miles air before entering at Id's body. He looked like a star falling silently to earth, wrapped in a halo of light. His delicate face made the scene quite beautiful, but Yo-Yo's attention was elsewhere. Where had the bottle gone? She had spent so much on that glass bottle with her tiger imprint. Did it just disappear into his body along with the potion? This wasn't scientific at all. Why couldn't bottles be reused? Yo-Yo stared intently. Big stars silently falling from the night sky. She watched as they landed beside her. The scene was beautiful, but something seemed off about it. Her focus had clearly shifted. The bottle was gone. That big glass bottle she had spent so much on with Tiger's seal. Was it just going to disappear into that boy's body along with the potion? That didn't make any sense. Why couldn't bottles be reused? Yo-Yo stared at the unconscious youth for a long time, as if trying to see through him. But no matter how hard she looked, there was nothing unusual about him until his eyelashes began to flutter. She reluctantly moved her gaze away from him, but just as she did so, the black suddenly stirred and quickly sat up, grabbing Yo-Yo's shoulders in a flash. Why info? The voice rang out. She could feel the cool touch of his gun against the back of her head, making her body stiffen slightly. She said, struggling to breathe, as he held her down. I'm an adventurer. The black butterflies that surrounded him fluttered around her face, sending a chill through her. Seeing no reaction from Ed, she continued, we met before, in the alley of the small town at the base of the tower. Id's eyes fell as he pondered for a moment. His loose and grip indicated that some memories were returning to him. He withdrew his silver embossed gun and stepped down with a crisp sound, his black cloak fluttering in the air. Yo tried to stretch out her body, but was warned by Ad's voice before she could lift her head. Stay away from me. Don't worry, Yo-Yo said. Your curse doesn't affect me anymore. She knew he was still wary of her, and since defeating the world boss Moon, and obtaining a small pet that could cleanse any negative effects at will, curses no longer posed a threat to her. To prove this point, she even reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Stay away from me, the young man warned. Don't worry, your curse doesn't affect me anymore. She knew exactly what he was wary of. Ever since defeating the world boss Moon and acquiring a little companion that could cleanse anything at any time, curses no longer posed a threat to her. To prove it to Ed, Yo-Yo even reached out and grabbed his sleeve, letting cursed particles linger around her without hesitation. The girl's eyes twinkled with light like shattered glass. See? Nothing happened. Indeed, nothing did happen. In fact, he felt the curse on him lighten up, becoming less sharp and uncomfortable. At this touch from Yo-Yo, Ed was momentarily stunned. The black mace-haired youth pressed down his cap, speaking coldly as usual. Humph, shameless. Your way he spoke made her heart race more than any declaration of love ever could. So unfair. So she lifted her head and looked at him seriously. This time, however, she was bolder. She reached out to hold his hand, gloved in black leather. Though my request sounds strange, please call me shameless again. Ed rarely interacted with others due to the curse on himself, let alone such intimate contact. The unfamiliar warmth from her touch made him feel like an electrified cow. His first instinct was to pull away, but Yo-Yo's grip was too tight. The young man, still inexperienced in emotions and dealing with girls, didn't know why his heart felt so hot and embarrassed. He glared at the girl who caused this reaction, teeth clenched. What did you do to me? Yo-Yo blinked innocently when asked suddenly. I haven't done anything. Don't you like holding hands with someone? If he didn't enjoy it, there was no need for her to force him. Though she felt quite happy just being close to this handsome guy. Such things required mutual consent. Forced affection might be sweet, but wouldn't satisfy first. The young girl bit her lip and asked, what did you do to me? Yo-Yo blinked innocently when suddenly addressed. I didn't do anything. Don't you like being held by the hand? If he doesn't like it, there's no need to force him. Although holding hands with a celebrity is pretty fun, this kind of thing really needs mutual consent. Forced fruits are sweet but not satisfying. Thinking this, Yo-Yo subconsciously reached for her backpack, where she kept countless bouquets of roses. With the weekly gift limit and affection system in mind, reaching full is just a matter of time if she persists. The future looks bright. With that thought, She felt much better. Never mind. He withdrew his hand as the soothing breeze that had suppressed the curse fire within him vanished. The sharp pain returned, making Abby frown and suppress the urge to get closer to her. Calming himself, he quickly regained composure. Yo-Yo looked at him thoughtfully before recounting what happened. We were in the town at the base of the tower when a man wearing a rabbit mask chased after you. During our fight, cursed butterflies surrounded us and then we ended up here. Abby's expressionless eyes flickered as if recalling something. The man with the rabbit mask, it was him. Yo-Yo asked, do you have issues with him? No, he replied, his handsome brows furrowing again. He's an upper tier demon knight from a magic organization outside our realm, the Black Rabbit. I heard about his deeds in Pearl Kingdom and didn't expect to see him here so soon. That's actually an upper Thor demon from the Pearl Kingdom. The main storyline of Green Maze hasn't even been completed yet. Does this mean we're moving on to another one? Yo-Yo was confused. We don't have time to stay here any longer. Black butterflies fluttered gently around his fingertips as black flames appeared at his feet. His face, that of a tower overseer, seemed chilled like ice with beautiful blue eyes. So quickly you've made it to the bottom of the tower, he murmured in surprise. It's an upper tier magic eye. And one from the Pearl Kingdom at that. Green Maze's main storyline isn't even complete yet. Is this leading into another major plotline? Yo-Yo was confused. There's no time left for us here. The black butterfly fluttered gently to a stop on his fingertip. Black flames appeared beneath his feet, and from the tower base looked as if he had been doused in ice, cold blue ice brimming with frost. Leaving this place was difficult, just blast through it. You have entered the challenge room. Please kill all enemies within 5 minutes. Arcana card ambition triggered. Deemed amplified arcane a lucky cat. Lucky cat take at will follow you, increasing your luck by 10% permanently while alive. The first draw from an amplified arcana was a boost. This was a good omen. As she watched the enemies respawn in the room, Yo-Yo picked up her wrist coin and prepared to throw it to trigger its effect. Before she could even begin, a debased silver seal's pistol flashed, and with a boom, all the monsters were blown apart, leaving only glowing experience orbs behind. The young man glanced at her irritably as he holstered his gun. Don't get in my way. Yo-Yang. Abby was much stronger than she had imagined. There wasn't anything to be surprised about. After all, Abby was a combat-type special NPC. Yo-Yo had seen him in the adventurer's book before. She stroked the lucky cat that appeared at her feet. The soft fur felt nice against her hand. NPC. 连续 换语 5% 100%. 5%. Doom. Something felt off. She became even more certain of her thoughts when she noticed that Adelby had disappeared without a trace behind her. And speaking of which, when did the fog roll in? The white mist enveloped everything, making it hard to find direction. Suddenly, something slapped against her face with a slap, completely blocking her vision. It was an immaculately neat math test paper that hadn't passed the qualifying line. Even though she had crossed over into this game world, JoJo felt shaken when she saw it. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. The white fog flowed along the edges of the paper, changing the surroundings and filling her ears with the sounds of a bustling crowd. This place looks familiar. Is it another illusion created by the mist? This must be how this room's random mechanism works, gathering information from people who enter and displaying it. JoJo first observed her surroundings before entering her favorite convenience store as she had done in her previous life, nearly shedding tears when she saw the familiar shopkeeper. But just then, the shopkeeper turned around with a voice colder than ice. The strawberry pudding you like is all sold out today. Yo-Yo. She was already starting to feel hopeless. The shopkeeper pushed his glasses up and added another blow. And your favorite issue of Jump magazine has also been sold out. But I'll restock it next time. Yo-Yo shit. This world is unbearable. What a hellish scroll. But as the saying goes, conquering fear means facing it head. Yanxi. She immediately pulled out her wrist coin and gambled right there. The silver metal coin split into 5 shadows in each 5 shadows immediately before landing on the ground, free show in good fortune and to bad. The result was quite favorable. Good fortune triumphed over bad, breaking through the surrounding mist. A lucky cat emerged from the fog with a meow, rubbing its fluffy head against Jojo's leg. With the buff of luck temporarily added to her, she turned the tide. Suddenly, the shopkeeper burst into laughter and smoothly pulled out strawberry pudding and an open copy of Jump magazine from under his counter. It was incredibly beautiful. The great good had triumphed over the great evil, and the power of the coin shattered the surrounding mist. Lucky Cat emerged from the fog, meowing softly as it nuzzled against Yo-Yo's F with its fluffy head. A brief burst of luck reversed their fortunes. Suddenly, the boss in front of her let out a hearty laugh and smoothly pulled out strawberry pudding and an open copy of Jump from under the table. I was just kidding, because you're such a regular here. I always save this for you. Yo-Yo felt as if light had returned to the world. She exhaled, relieved, and asked the boss in the mist disguise, "So where exactly is this place?" With everything now revealed, the mist no longer hid its identity. "This is the space of fear-induced fantasy." "The space of fear-induced fantasy?" "Yes," replied the mist with a gentle smile. "Here, people's deepest fears manifest as tangible entities. Those entangled by their inner demons may find themselves trapped in this endless nightmare. Though your demon seems quite unique. I've never seen anything like it before." Yo-Yo recalled the earlier scene. It was indeed something she had experienced before her journey began. When she first heard the boss's words, Yo-Yo felt a pang of recognition. "Only you would understand my pain," she thought to herself. "Because your presence brought me such unexpected joy," said the mist in a fading voice. "I'll give you this one hint." The surroundings gradually cleared as it spoke. "Your friend seems to be suffering now. If you don't help him soon, he might become permanently trapped." Did that mean Nappy? Yo-Yo frowned and was about to ask more questions when the system's voice interrupted her. "Defeated world boss Misty Knight. All connection has been established with Misty Knight." Was this random event a world boss? Yo-Yo blinked, then flipped through her adventure book to the latest page. Misty Knight, a mischievous mist of unknown origin that covers people's vision at night. Those caught by it are plunged into an endless nightmare. Could it be that the random event this time is a world boss? Jo-E blinked her eyes and flipped through to the latest page in her adventure book. Nocturnal mist, a mischievous fog of unknown origin. No one knows where it came from or what its intentions are. At night, the mist covers people's vision, trapping those caught within an endless fear. Chapter 44. With the world boss gone, Joy's sight had fully returned. She climbed up from the cold floor and surveyed her surroundings. The room was still empty. Right, B should be stuck in that fog. She tilted her head slightly, his image, eyes tightly shut, face contorted with pain immediately flashing before her eyes. This made Joey rush to his side. "But what can I do?" Shaking him awake or hitting him until he wakes up seemed too crude and ineffective. Plus, she couldn't bear to hurt someone with such an expressive face. Magic must be used against magic. Joey thought for a moment, then opened her adventure book where the nocturnal mist was lazily drifting about on one of its pages. Seeing Joey flip through to his page, the playful mist perked up. "Hey Joe, did you come to play with me?" A talking world boss was to come, and Joe paused momentarily before asking, "Do you know how to save a bee?" The fog drooped at being asked about something else, sounding dejected. "I can take you into his dream, but there's a condition." Conditions likely referring to the sacrifice values in her book. The higher the value, the stronger the connection with the world boss. Joe scanned and noticed that all she needed was fireflies, something she had plenty of stored away. "Good thing I didn't get too carried away on those slot machines earlier." Joe-E took a deep breath, then reached into her backpack for the glass jar containing the fireflies. The higher the sacrifice value, the closer the connection with the world boss and thus a stronger bond. Zhao cast her gaze around casually and noticed that all she needed for the offering was fireflies, something she had plenty of but no place to put them. "Thankfully I didn't get hooked on those slot machines earlier, otherwise this would be quite troublesome." Zhao took a deep breath before rummaging through her backpack. She opened the glass jar containing the fireflies and poured out a handful into the book. The sacrifice value visibly filled up. Misty Knight belched contentedly after its hearty meal. It morphed into fluffy clouds, rubbing against Zhao Zhao affectionately. What do you want? The Misty Knight trapped around her like warm cotton candy, soft and cuddly, even as it suddenly dispersed like melting sugar. Of course I want to play with you, the mist giggled mischievously before fading away. Zhao Zhao felt herself lose balance. She was suspended in mid-minus air. Just like a kite cut loose, the darkness crept closer, devouring every last bit of light as if it were being eaten by countless black ants. She didn't know how long she had been falling through the dark abyss until her feet finally touched solid ground. She found herself completely disoriented and lost. Her toe dipped into the water, sending ripples across a seemingly endless surface that did not feel wet to Zhao Zhao's touch. A tickle in her nose made her sneeze loudly. Just like before, let the coin decide my direction, she said with determination. Choosing the lucky flow was indeed advantageous. At least there was a glimmer of hope amidst this endless darkness. The coin flipped from her thumb and split into 5 as usual. But this time luck was on her side. 4 out of the 5 coins landed on ominous signs. Zhao. She lost health points without mercy. To be fair, she was a Tanquai player, so losing some HP didn't matter much, but compared to the previous level, F3 had fewer ways to regain health. It was still worth cherishing every bit of her remaining life force. Undeterred, Zhao Zhao continued on. Desperate times call for desperate measures. The coin sprang from her thumb, splitting into 5 as before. This time, however, luck was on her side. 4 of them landed on the ominous symbol. Yayo. She was immediately hit with a blood bar reduction. No mercy shown. Well, to be fair, this might not have been much for someone used to having thick health bars, but compared to the previous level, F3's healing methods were rather limited. Undeterred by her bad luck, Yo-Yo tossed again. 3 good signs and 2 ominous ones, though it's still a bit off. At least the outcome is favorable. With such terrible luck, she didn't dare hope for too much unless buffed up fully. The darkness was pushed back as the coin scattered some of its shadows. Following this path, Yo-Yo advanced further into the tower's base town, or rather what used to be it. This place held a DB's memories. Monsters. The monster is on the streets again. UNPCs shouted in panic, their faces obscured but voices clear. To Yo-Yo, these townsfolk seemed even more eerie without faces. She grabbed one of them as he fled, asking, "What's going on here?" Without a face to read emotions from, she could only judge by tone. He was frantic. "A monster is loose. You should run too." "Got it." Yo-Yo nodded. Hearing the word curse, she had already made up her mind about AED. She asked again, "Which direction?" "In town center." "Wait, why do you want to know that?" Yo-Yo's eyes were resolute. "Him going there. That monster is completely out of control. If something happens, don't blame me for not warning you." Ignoring the NPC's warnings, Yo-Yo continued deeper into the town. The closer she got, the stronger the curse pressure became. Black cursed butterflies enveloped every building. By the way, she noticed her ring. "I can use a divine contract here. Even though it's just memories, I still have to follow the rules." She thought it better this way. Fingering the ring, continuing on her path as the NPC had said, she found that the pressure of the curse grew stronger with each step. Black cursed butterflies almost enveloped all the buildings around her. Come to think of it, Yo-Yo realized there was a ring on her finger. Even though this is just an illusion, I still need to follow the rules here. Actually, this might work better for me. With a flick of her fingers over the ring, faint light spread out and transformed into branches. She leapt gracefully, slicing through the dense swarm of black butterflies with ease. Amidst the chaos was young Adby, trembling in fear from his own curse. "Are you okay?" Her gentle voice was like dawn breaking. Adby lifted his head hesitantly, her warm smile reflected in his blank eyes. It felt as though ice melted and flowers bloomed all around them. He extended a hand to him. "Come with me into the outside world." Chapter 45. She grabbed Adby's hand and pulled him close for balance, lifting him up Princess Mile before leaping agilely across rooftops. Black cursed butterflies followed closely behind as if startled by this sudden change. The unstable world began crumbling around them. "Strange," Yo-Yo murmured, the fog hasn't cleared. Unlike her previous quick exit through the illusion, she could still see mist lingering in the air. She looked down at Edby nestled against her chest, his eyes closed tightly. He was shivering and burning up with fever from the cold. Do you have a fever? Is it an effect of the curse? With no time to waste, Yo-Yo adjusted her grip on him, cradling him in one arm while she used the branches as leverage. She swung them backward forcefully, pushing through the darkening fog ahead, so she could clearly feel that the other person's body was burning hot. Are you running a fever? Is it from the curse? But with time pressing on, Yo-Yo didn't have much to spare. Seeing the darkness about to engulf them, the girl gently adjusted her hold and used one hand to support him while she swung the branch behind her with all her might, forcing the wind infused with divine power into the encroaching shadows. The coin seems to be back. Because of the world collapsing, even the rules governing existence have become unstable, Yo-Yo muttered as she tossed the wrist coin from her fingertips. For the first time in history, it shone brightly. For great fortunes, a strong light radiated from the surface of the coin, and luck's power overcame the curse, breaking all the black butterflies chasing them apart. The darkness around began to recede, allowing Yo, who had been on the brink of falling into an abyss, to and steadily on the grassy ground. Gentle breezes brushed against her face as the scent of damp earth filled her nose, but she was still in a realm of fear. It felt icy cold despite everything else. Yo-Yo found a large tree and, after setting down the bowl, took out materials from her backpack to make a workbench by hand. She then gathered some branches nearby to build a campfire. This is much warmer now. Warm for the moment. The materials in Yo-Yo's pack were limited, so she faced many constraints in crafting items like beds and tents. It seemed cruel to have him lie directly on the ground while he had a fever. After careful consideration, she decided to offer up her thigh. She carefully placed his head on her leg, gave him some water, then wiped away the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Since the moon is nearby, there shouldn't be too many problems. The moon could purify all negative effects under its gentle glow. Anyone would feel at ease. As Yo-Yo touched the boy's cheek, the black butterfly patterns on him started to fade away. Yo finally relaxed. So now we just have to wait. Everything was pitching calm before her eyes, except for the fluttering shadows of butterflies in mid-air. Water. Since the moon is nearby, there shouldn't be any major issues, she murmured. The moon's serene glow could purify all negative effects under its light. Anyone would feel at ease. Yo-Yo touched the boy's cheek, and the black butterfly patterns on her body began to fade. Yo-Yo said, so now we just have to wait. The world was pitch black except for the fluttering shadows of butterflies in mid-air, dancing endlessly around him. This was a common sight for Aidenby. The cursed butterflies seemed drawn to the taste of his blood, constantly hovering and waiting to devour every last bit of flesh from his body. Perhaps because he had grown accustomed to them, or simply because they were the only ones who approached him willingly, Aidenby didn't mind their presence. He could solve everything on his own. That's how he lived since birth. When countless butterflies swarmed around him, like mad creatures, and a golden-haired girl pulled him out of the chaos with a smile. Her gentle embrace made his heart warm. You're finally awake, she said softly. Is your body still hot? Do you want some more water, or should we take a walk? As soon as he opened his eyes and heard that familiar voice again, the dazed boy snapped fully awake. His senses gradually returned, causing him to cough painfully. Not a dream? Of course it's not a dream, Yo-Yo said. Sensing his thoughts, she gently held Aidenby's hand that seemed to be reaching out for something. Look. I'm right here. Aidenby stared at their joined hands in silence. His lifeless eyes showed a hint of surprise. You won't be cursed by them. He turned his head slightly and asked sharply, why did you save me? Do you have some purpose? 3 questions thrown out all at once. Yo-Yo was surprised to see how talkative Aidenby could be. Had he grown into the silent, expressionless person she knew? An adventurer from outside the tower. Outside the tower, so you're from that desolate place. Unaffected by the curse, he thought. He turned his head to her. And why did you save me? Do you have some purpose? Well, 3 questions at once. Did little Edby used to talk this much, or was it just a facade of indifference that grew with him? I'm Yo-Yo, an adventurer from outside the tower. Outside? So you're from those desolate lands? Abby didn't seem surprised as he got up and pondered. A person seeking revenge against the High Tower would have come for me, but then why save me? Yo-Jo blinked in confusion. Revenge against the High Tower. What does that mean? Aren't outsiders here to make wishes? You know nothing. Abby's eyes narrowed. The wishing tower is just a fairy tale. Yo-Yo felt like she was hearing something earthy. So the wishing tower isn't real. What kind of story background is this? Don't make fun of someone who skips through dialogue to enjoy combat mechanics. Seeming to understand her look of bewilderment, Abby became even more certain. Abby crossed his arms and stared at Yo-Yo with disbelief. So there are really such naive fools. Don't judge me for skipping the story, please. Abby seemed unexpectedly sharp tongue for a kid, which was kind of cute to Yo-Yo. She hesitated before asking another question, this time swallowing hard as it felt more serious than expected. Can you tell me what seeking revenge against the High Tower means? It's no secret among outsiders, Abby said slowly with his eyes lowered. In ancient times there were no distinctions between inside and outside the tower. The world was lush and full of life, like within the tower now. No one knew when. NPC, I'm not sure about the person, but those special individuals linked to the tower will indeed be replaced. Despite speaking of a terrifying matter, his expression remained as calm and detached as ever, as if none of it concerned him at all. Yo-Yo, how did this explanation make everything seem even more spineless chilling? She glanced at AD again, feeling inexplicably tense. Would you have died if I hadn't saved you? No butterfly effect. Like maybe the current AD would disappear if his predecessor had lived. His eyes were as calm and untroubled as ever, with no change in tone when he spoke. This is my memory, right? That's correct. Then what has happened can't be changed. Wow. That's good. So it means I wouldn't have caused your death. That's a relief. Thought I was about to make a big mistake. Since she had come this far and saved him, the most crucial step must now be completed with care. With a deep breath as if making up her mind for something important, Yo-Yo reached into her backpack quickly. A beautiful rose appeared before his eyes. Who knew how long Yo-Yo had wanted to do this? She lifted her gaze seriously and spoke in earnest. Please accept this. Author's note. Thank you to the readers who voted or sent me nutrition liquid from 2020 to 10/11/10 p.m. 8/2020 to 10/12 9:40 for p.m. 9. Thanks for your support. I will continue to work hard. Chapter 46. Her interactions with ADIB were relatively harmonious. Perhaps, at least when she gave him the rose, there was a noticeable increase in her affection toward him, though honestly, seeing his face as cold and aloof as ever made Yo even more determined. Maybe it was because of how expressive her current expression had become. Thank you all for your support. I'll continue to work hard. Chapter 46. Getting along with AD was relatively harmonious. Sort of, at least. At the very least, her affection meter went up when she gave him roses, though honestly, seeing his cold face only made rebellious Qiao more determined. Perhaps it was because her expressions were so vivid that even Abby couldn't ignore them. He pursed his lips and glanced at her with dull eyes. What's your expression? Put a hand under her chin as if deep in thought. He tilted his head. Then she moved closer to AD, the seriousness in her eyes evident. Terra and all that was happening outside wasn't something Chiyo cared much about after all. She didn't belong here anyway. As a player who valued game mechanics and gameplay over everything else, Cleo preferred to go at her own pace. Beating up the annoying guys couldn't be wrong. You're really an idiot, he said, unaccustomed to being stared at with such warmth. His ears tingled. This unfamiliar sensation made him turn away. It doesn't benefit you to flatter me. You just called me an idiot, she cried out, ignoring the rest of what he had said. Her eyes sparkled like starlight falling into them. She almost fell on her face as she lunged forward. I'm the happiest person in the world right now. Maybe. This girl was indeed strange. never seen anyone cry with joy after being called an idiot before. Perhaps it was because someone finally accepted him that he didn't mind her contact. In fact, felt warm again. This unfamiliar discomfort made him frown and clench his fingers tightly. After a while, Hiao-Chu suddenly stood up as if she had realized something. Okay, I get it. He lifted his gaze. For the first time, he saw someone shedding tears with joy. Perhaps it was because this person had finally accepted him. He didn't seem to mind their touch. In fact, his heart felt warm again. A strange discomfort made him furrow his brows slightly as he clenched his fingers tightly. After a moment, Jiao stood up from the ground as if she suddenly realized something. All right, I get it. He raised his eyes. Hiao just smiled lightly. You can't respond to me because you're on the other side of the tower. Her fingertips brushed against her ring. A branch materialized in her palm and grasped the boy's hand. As he was momentarily stunned by this sudden move, she swung the branch, slicing through the black butterflies that approached from afar, turning them into shimmering black seagull dust. In the midst of dispersing darkness, the girl's figure shone like a beam of light, piercing his eyes like refreshing wind sweeping away dark clouds. He couldn't help but stretch out his hand towards her. Then Io climbed to the top of the tower and become its new ruler. And when that time comes, will you stand by my side? Hiao suddenly opened her eyes, her last memory being the butterflies breaking apart and blinding light flooding in. She was thrown into the air by an unknown force before finding herself back in the initial room. You're really a fool, came the cold voice from beside him as he lifted his head. The silver-shined gun pointed at her forehead, black butterflies circling around them. His military cap pulled low over his face. Jiao couldn't see his expression clearly. Did you not fear being wiped out in front of a tower executor? By the tower, so it meant skipping the hard mode and going straight to permanent death. There was indeed such an option. After completing both endings and achieving certain achievements, she would enter hellish difficulty levels. Since this had been mentioned now, unlocking that level probably revealed the true nature of the tower. But so what? She found more challenging situations even more exciting. Facing the boy's imposing presence, extremely difficult permanent death mode. On second thought, it does seem like there's a hidden feature for that. After completing both the inner and outer endings, achieving a certain special achievement would unlock this hellish difficulty level. Since they're mentioning it now, unlocking this must mean uncovering the true secrets of the tower. But so what? A more challenging situation only makes players like Yo-Yo even more excited. Facing the boy's threat didn't faze her. She even curled up one corner of her mouth with a smile. So, you remember our encounter in the illusion, meaning that our agreement is real. Rarely did he show any emotion, but now this usually expressionless youth let out an exasperated sigh. His calm demeanor finally showing some fluctuation. Did you really understand what's happening? Yo-Yo laughed even more joyfully. With a brief pause in her speech, she continued with vibrant energy. Right now, in full of motivation. Even when faced with the tower's coercion, Yo-Yo remained so composed. Why couldn't he figure out why? If everything was because of him, Abby could only shake his head. So unpredictable. Especially that moment in the illusion where the girl smiled and reached for him without hesitation, her inner barriers loose and unconsciously then too. Too dangerous to keep going like this. But even as he thought so, he didn't pull the trigger on her forehead. This is just a warning. His azure eyes avoided contact with her determined gaze. The black youth lowered his gun and turned away, feeling confused by his own hesitation. Yo-Yo winked at him and gave an okay sign. Got it, I understand. Abby rolled his tongue in slight annoyance before turning around. The crisp sound of his boots echoed on the floor as he walked off. Stop laughing like a fool, keep up with me. Sure thing. You're too noisy. Unlike the previous rooms, there was only one door. He ray green random event room, just like this. Yo-Yo and Abby entered. Guy understand. Abby gave a slight grimace and turned around. His black boots with laces clicked crisply on the floor as he said, Stop grinning like an idiot and follow me. Alright, you're too noisy. Unlike the previous rooms, this one had only one or another green random event room. Yo-Yo and Abby stepped inside. The first thing that caught their eyes was a huge spinning wheel floating in mid words printed on its slender pointer. I can see some text written on the walls. It looked like rules for the game. Spin the wheel to receive gifts from Lady Luck. Talents, raw materials, minerals, weapons, random NPC affinities and even curses were all crammed onto the spinning wheel. It was impossible to read everything carefully in one go, but with the luck boost from his risk coin and Lucky Cat's blessing, he strode forward confidently and pressed the button to start the spin. The wheel began to whirl rapidly, making the words on it blur before settling down after a few seconds. Card Master. Yojo blinked in surprise. It's this one. Although cards are cool, I still prefer dealing damage myself. This time, the random event changed the game mechanics of their current level from 3D action to a 2D turns-based card strategy game. Under Lady Luck's influence, all Yo's talents turned into cards he could hold in his hand, except for his initial weapon. Please choose your class. Fury Warrior free attack and to Frenzy HP 4. ATK 5 free wait time between attacks 4. Shield Knight adds a shield of free to all allies when attacked. Strategic game. Under the power of Lady Luck, besides her initial weapon, the wrist coin Yo-Yo received all other talents as cards that could be held in hand. Please choose your class. Berserker free attack and to Frenzy. Health 4, attack power 5 free, wait time before attack 4. Shield Knight adds a shield of free to all allies when attack power 2. Wait time before attack 4. Great Angel heals allied units for free health with each attack and has a 40% chance to use a sleep spell on enemies every turn. Elf 4, attack power free, wait time before attack free. Hunter of Demons has a 30% chance to dodge enemy attacks. Successful dodges add 1 layer of frenzy for both self and allies. Health 5, attack power 4, wait time before attack 2. Card strategy requires selecting your class first. Afterward, you receive an elementary spellbook where all cards can be stored until battle when they are used as needed. Each turn allows the use of a card, but basic attacks depend on the character's wait time before attacking. Only once this timer resets does the character act. Which one should I choose? Yo-Yo pondered deeply. Considering my risk coin gives me an edge in probability minus-based classes, it would be best to stick with that. That meant choosing between Great Angel and Hunter of Demons. 47. Chapter 47. Despite the options being a Great Angel or Hunter of Demons, Yo-Yo chose Berserker without hesitation. There was no particular reason, she simply loved brute strength. 12 battles, 19,382,479 5 battles leaves. HM, Woman Human 1 battle. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 47. Although she had the choice between a Great Angel and a Hunter of Demons, JoJo ultimately chose the Berserker without hesitation. There wasn't any particular reason, she simply loved strong, brutish men. There's no need to fixate on one type right away, I might get probability cards later. The 6 initial card slots for Berserkers included 2 Grace level cards with an attack power of 5 Powerful Strike and Divine Shield. There was also a card that reduced the number of turns and another that increased Frenzy, since it's a Berserker. Let's go all out on the Frenzy route, JoJo said as she looked through her spellbook. Apart from reducing turn numbers, I can delete most other basic cards. The key to this card game was streamlining your deck, otherwise, you'd end up with too many useless cards each round. A special NPC who likely wouldn't choose his class like players do. Since he's combat planes oriented, it shouldn't be bad. Observer can attack every turn without being affected by the number of turns. HP 2, attack power 12, waiting turn attack 0. JoJo exclaimed, holy cow. It seemed pretty formidable, especially with no cooldown on his basic attacks. This is what a true Berserker looks like. Maybe she should get an Archangel to support him. After all, Ad B has high attack but low defense, so she's likely to die quickly. The Hunter of Demons isn't bad either, since it can stack Frenzy for allies. Each point of Frenzy allows 1 extra basic attack per turn after waiting rounds end. There's also a Shield Knight, who can give shields and increase survival chances. JoJo suddenly realized, doesn't this mean I get the least benefit from choosing a Berserker? To fragile characters with high single domest target damage, if they face monster hordes, it's game over instantly. But since she's already chosen them, there's no going back now. She'll have to make some adjustments. With each additional normal attack, the pattern was set n times the base damage. There were also the Wangxi and knights, who could provide shields to their teammates and boost survival. Zhou Qiao realized something. Then wouldn't a berserker be the least beneficial? Two fragile characters with high single damage encountering a horde of monsters would surely spell instant defeat. But since she had already chosen them, there was no turning back now. All that mattered was sheer determination. Next is choosing your route. Besides the magic book, a large paper map appeared in Xiao Xiao's hand. There are small monsters, elite enemies, bosses, treasure chests, shops, random events, and campfires, she explained to herself. It seemed like a complete roguelike card strategy game. Reaching the end of this map would take them back to the base hour. With that thought in mind, Qiao Qiao's spirits rose. She then lowered her head again, pondering carefully. Logically speaking, it should be better to go for random events and campfires, where I can upgrade my cards. Well, actually, she just loved gambling because of how exciting the randomness was. With good luck, she could turn the tide. Using a finger, Qiao tapped on the map. As her fingertip touched down, there came a soft rattling sound from the center door, followed by a click as it unlocked and chains fell to the ground, turning into white light that vanished. The first stage was fighting ordinary small monster, say standard start. There were 6 positions in total, 2 rows of 3 columns. Each position could hold either a character card or a sum and creature card. The enemies on the front row would take the brunt of the attacks first. You're still daydreaming? At Ibe's calm voice suddenly broke through, as she stood right in front of Qiao Qiao without her noticing. It's not good to be distracted during battle. Dude, so reliable. But standing there like that wouldn't get her killed. Then she saw AD instantly gun down the monster with a single shot at 0 turns. Yao Qiao. Well, it was her fault for underestimating her abilities. As long as your attack power is high enough, you can end battles quickly. She stepped forward and took the lead, standing in front of her. It's not a good idea to get distracted during battle. So reliable, but won't she be shattered if she stands at the forefront like that? Then Agby directly shot down one of the small monsters with his first attack. Yo. Well, it looks like she was hasty after all. As long as your is high enough and you end battles quickly, there's no need to worry about health points. Escape route skill cards, draw 3 cards, discard 2. Blessing of the God of Strength, unplayable skill card after being discarded. Add 3 points of frenzy for all characters on the field. Bashi's ability attack card, apply a layer of vulnerability to all enemies that cannot be removed. Gambler's Feast skill card, 3 cost a 30% chance to draw 3 cards and gain 4 points in mana. With poker ambition, this innate talent turned into an artifact on my body. I can choose 1 more card, Yo said. Firstly is definitely the 0 cost card draw. Next up would be Blessing of the God of Strength and Gambler's Feast, she continued. The blessing can work well with discarding cards, while Gambler's Feast synergizes as nicely with her weapon, Risk Coin. It's just a bit unstable. Choosing Blessing of the God of Strength is safer. Most people go for it if they want stability, especially when mana isn't sufficient and initial cards are holding them back. I choose Gambler's Feast. Gamblers fear nothing, let's gamble hard. After collecting her reward, she continued forward. The next 2 random events were carefully chosen by Yo on this perfect route. The door slowly opened to reveal a red mist inside, with what seemed like a black pupil in the middle and bloodshot eyes that looked slightly terrifying up close. I am an emissary from hell, a servant of death god. Young adventurer, would you be willing to make a deal with me? Except 20% chance for curse, 40% chance for high artifact. This was the perfect route carefully chosen by Zhou. The grand door slowly creaked open, revealing a red mist inside. In its center seemed to be a black pupil surrounded by bloodshot eyes that looked slightly terrifying when magnified. I am an emissary from hell, a servant of death and darkness. Young adventurer, would you like to make a deal with me? Accept 20% chance of receiving a curse, 40% chance of obtaining a highest level relic. Reject, lose 2 health points for all characters. Silence, lose 1 health point and convert any card in your deck into another. Chapter 48. Only accept or remain silent. If you reject, your teammates will be instantly defeated. With such fragile health, losing blood is devastating. There are few campfires along this path to regain health. I have a change card, but I already have one that's not very useful. If another comes up, it might just add more stress. The sheer number of cards in the game makes finding a good one like searching for a needle in a haystack. Moreover, converting any card costs blood points too risky to ignore. With this in mind, JoJo took a deep breath and stepped forward, raising her head without hesitation to meet those black eyes. What do you want from me? The dark mists whirled around as the entity responded with its dazed black pupils exuded an abyssal aura that made JoJo feel like she was being watched by death itself. Feeling something amiss, JoJo inwardly cursed her luck. Just when she thought she would receive a curse, the atmosphere shifted abruptly. Those eyes curved into a smile. Very well, I enjoy your straightforward answers. As a reward for pleasing me, take this. Emerald necklace increases all characters' fortune by 100%. JoJo gasped in surprise. Was the sun rising from the west today? Not only did she avoid receiving a curse, but also obtained an artifact that perfectly complemented her risk coin. This would make waiting for attack turns and rolling dice even more rewarding. Happy? Why, like your straightforward answers. As a reward for pleasing me, take this with you. Emerald necklace increases the luck of all characters in your faction by 100%. Yo-Yo's face widened. Was today really that unusual? Not only did she avoid being cursed but also received an artifact perfectly suited to her risk coin. This way, during the waiting phase for attacks, tossing a lucky coin would reliably trigger the card gambler's delight. Taking a chance can turn your bicycle into a motorcycle. Off we go. With this wonderful feeling in mind, she continued following the map's route. Another random event waited her next. Watch out around you. As they just entered a new room, Abby seemed to sense something and frowned. True enough, as expected, something cold zipped through the air, scaring Yo-Yo into stumbling. She turned slightly and saw an arrow coated in purple vein lodged between stone walls. This was a trapped treasure room. If it weren't for ADB's timely intervention, she would have been toast. Thanks, Abby. The girl smiled again, her pretty eyes crinkling like crescent moons, sparkling with gratitude as if tiny water droplets splashing in the sun. Abby merely trembled slightly and took in her smile. That strange feeling stirred within him once more. He lowered his cap to hide any signs of unease on his face. No problem. A trapped treasure room meant safely navigating through traps by solving puzzles to reach a chest at the end. But for Yo-Yo, who was exactly gifted with brain power, this was no easy feat. So she decided to take matters into her own hands. Her precious fishing rod awaited. Abby, stay here. You'll be right back. Yo-Yo flashed him a smile and dashed in without looking back. About a minute later, she returned panting heavily. The boy lowered his gaze with a hint of confusion. What did you do? Yo-Jo tilted her head. I went park hour scene. Park hour. The arrival was imminent. Wait here for me. I'll be right back. Jiao Jiao smiled in his direction and dashed inside without looking back. After about a minute, she returned, panting. The boy asked with a hint of curiosity as he lowered his gaze to look at her. I ran through all the traps, she replied, tilting her head. Ran through them. Basically solved everything. She grinned and tugged on the corner of his sleeve. Come on, let's go to the next room. For Jiao Jiao, with her exceptional agility and reflexes, navigating this room was a breeze. Although the traps looked formidable, as long as she moved fast enough, they posed no real threat. The moment she touched the treasure chest, the system declared her victorious, automatically disarming all the traps. Opening the chest revealed dazzling light. Received 153 gold coins. Obtain Flame Potion 1. Flame Potion can be thrown in battle, inflicts 1 point of fire damage to all enemies and burns them for 2 turns. Blessing of Strength cannot be discarded, increases the fervor at by 3 points for everyone on the field. This card has returned, Jiao Jiao thought, feeling slightly disoriented at how smoothly everything had gone. Fighting through binary monsters and encountering 4 random events along the way, 3 of them were minor battles and 1 was a boss fight. With her powerful discard deck strategy becoming more refined, she breezed through each encounter effortlessly, showcasing the beauty of brutal simplicity. Then, with a single step, Jiao Jiao found herself in a new random event. Because she hadn't moved fast enough, all her money was stolen by a nimble thief monster named Bandit. And that wasn't even the worst part. Up next on the map was a shop. She had earned some golden plan to splurge at the store, but now everything changed in an instant. Her heart raced. Indeed, nothing is certain. Rough and draw beauty. Then she stepped into a new random event. Because she didn't run fast enough, all her money was stripped by a nimble little thief mob. But that wasn't the worst part. What made it truly terrible was that the next icon was a shop. She had planned to make some big purchases at the store with the money she just earned, but who knew such misfortune would strike? Thanks, my blood pressure is through the roof. Of course, things never go smoothly. Still, now that I've got my card set up, it doesn't really matter if there's a shop. She said this, but deep down, she couldn't let it go. As the thief's figure was about to disappear from the room, Crouchio gritted her teeth and activated Blessing of Speed. She ran at near maximum speed, grabbing the thief just as he leapt out of the room and gave him a good beating before looting all his gold coins. Is that it? The thieves were fragile, with incredibly low attack power. Their only advantage was their incredible speed. They loved to surprise players in random events by snatching money and running off like bandits, as had just happened. But if you could catch them before they left the room, you could reclaim your gold. But did Chiao look like someone who would let that happen? Unless you show some sincerity, I can't guarantee what shape you'll be in. She glared at them with a menacing expression, and the little mob shuddered in fear. True to her word, she had some intimidation power. The thieves seemed truly frightened, and they carefully pulled something out of their hats and handed it to Chiao. Thieves win 60% chance each turn to steal gold from enemies. But getting this early on would have been even better since she was about to face a boss soon. But seeing that the thieves had at least shown some respect by giving her something for free, Kiao let them go with satisfaction. The next icon shop. There wasn't much she needed to buy. She simply deleted all the unwanted basic cards in one fell swoop and streamlined her deck. It was a move she'd been wanting to make since early on. Now her card pool looked so clean and neat. Play it safe. Let's heal up. She let him go with a satisfied nod, grateful for the freebie. The next icon was the shop. There wasn't anything she needed to buy here. She simply deleted all her unwanted basic cards in one fell swoop, streamlining her deck as much as possible. Her card collection now looked cleaner and more organized than ever before. Let's play it safe and heal up, she murmured. At the last stop by the campfire, there were still some ungraded cards left. But since they weren't core cards, it didn't matter too much whether or not to upgrade them. It could finally make up for the blood loss from earlier. Weibi nodded in agreement and sat down beside her. Let's rest a bit. They had enough time to get back to the bottom of the tower before the fishing festival if they won this boss fight. Starting all over again, right from the edge until reaching the central room, was something she couldn't bear despite how interesting it would be. Yeah, she replied and sat down beside him. But because they were in a hurry, their rest by the campfire didn't last long. The quiet moment passed as soon as the flames died out. Fully refreshed, Yo-Yo and Dede exchanged glances before getting up to head toward the final room together. With a sudden crackle, the door shattered under her fingertips. The wall crumbled outward in an expanding fissure until it collapsed entirely, sending chunks of stone flying everywhere amidst billowing dust that stung at their eyes. Owlraven swooped down from above, its wings stirring up a gust of wind. Who would have thought someone could make it this far? The man said as he landed gracefully beside her. Dressed in a suit and wearing an elegant top hat, his hand reached out to grasp hers gently before placing a soft kiss on her knuckles. Yo-Yo blinked at him, answering instinctively in Yo-Yo. He smiled lightly. A charming name. Indeed, my name is Farah. It's a pleasure to meet you. Unlike the other floors where bosses attacked without preamble, Farah was unique in that he would converse with players before engaging them. But don't let his courteous demeanor fool you. But before that, may I ask for your name? Hiao blinked uncertainly and answered instinctively in Qiao. So this is it. What a beautiful name. My name is Farah. Pleased to meet you. Unlike the other bosses who would attack without warning, Farah was unique in that he would chat with players before engaging them. But don't let his gentle demeanor fool you. He is as nasty as they come, evident from the fervent malice in his gaze. Farah reached out again. If a player didn't dodge at this moment, their eyes would be plucked out. Though HE did help restore them after battle, there'd still be a 40% drop in attack accuracy, a real loss. Just as Qiao Qiao was about to evade perfectly, ADIB stepped ahead of her, pulling the black mayonnaise-haired military boy behind him and pinning Farah to the ground with his gun pressed against Farah's chin. He had been displeased by Farah's behavior since he first saw it. Don't touch her, Ralph, said Farah. I don't like dealing with men, AD replied. Farah just sighed, feeling utterly hopeless. Pitiful, he sighed, muttered. To earn Xiao Xiao's favor, you'll have to get rid of you first. Before him fluttered the disheveled feathers of a crow. As soon as he felt ADB's grip loosen, Farah slipped free and stood atop the high staircase. He sprayed perfume on himself and wiped his hand with a handkerchief, clearly not hiding his disgust. I don't want to be touched by men. With that declaration, the game 2D. The screen reverted back to discard mode. Chapter 50. To ensure their survival, Qiao Qiao had collected many shield-minded cards along the way. Using her escape route card, which allowed her to draw free and discard 2 cards from her deck, she drew them all out at once. Luckily, they were all non-playable skill cards. She discarded Blessing of the God of Strength, adding 1 point defense for everyone present, then tossed away Dream. Yeah, for real? To ensure the survival of 2 fragile players, Koel had collected numerous cards related to shields and protective spells along their journey. Using her card that allowed her to draw free cards and discard to escape route, the deck was emptied in a flash. With some luck, all discarded were undiscarded whirl. She first used Blessing of the God of Strength, adding 1 point of defense for everyone present before discarding it. She then threw away her enchanted magic hand and drew 2 more cards. Using another escape route card, she repeated this process until her hand was full. She used a weaken spell to apply a negative effect on the boss, followed by all remaining basic attack cards without hesitation. With several loud bangs, Yifei had already lost around 30 points of health. Since we can roll from our discard pile after using up the deck, even though it's a discard strategy, if skill cards come with Cardian conditions, you can create an endless loop, continuously drawing and discarding cards between her deck and graveyard. She could maintain this cycle indefinitely as long as her collection was streamlined. This would prevent the opponent from acting for 1 turn nor throughout the entire battle. Xiao Sao let out a breath of relief, flicking a wrist coin with her finger. Under the 100% luck boost provided by her relic emerald necklace, even someone as unlucky as she could reliably roll 5 lucky outcomes in a row. She played Gambler's Jubilee, drawing 3 new cards and adding 4 points to her on the pool. This card was now the core of her infinite loop strategy when combined with risk coins and the emerald necklace. While others depleted their resources, Qiao Qiao's kept growing until she had an endless supply by battle's end. This fight was already over from its beginning. Calculating the boss's health while stacking Frenzy attack on 8B, who hadn't attacked yet, she waited for the perfect moment to click and turn. The boss would face a barrage of powerful strikes. Black butterflies circled her fingertips as Qiao lifted his head coldly. Without hesitation, he pulled back and fired the gun in his hand. Bullets. The battle was over even before it began. As he calculated the boss's health, he frantically piled on frenzied attacks to add B, who hadn't attacked yet. When the time came, he clicked the end turn button with a flourish, leaving the boss facing an onslaught of powerful blows from B. Black butterflies whirled around his fingertips as the dart swayed and without hesitation pulled the trigger on his gun. The bullets were unchanged in size or speed, but when they hit the boss for 323 damage, everything else seemed to fade away. Action games might not allow him to go through unscathed, but card strategy battles were simple enough. After all, he just needed to think and didn't have to dodge the barrage of nearly impossible bliss. Did I really lose like this? This is incredible, this truly. The Raven fell to his knees on the ground, seemingly unable to believe what was happening. Qiao Qiao had been wondering if there would be a second phase when he suddenly looked up with an easy smile. Truly intoxicating. Qiao. Huh? The last attack was simply magnificent. It must have been Miss Qiao Qiao's skill. Yifei appeared beside him, his face radiating enthusiasm. From the moment I saw her beautiful eyes, I knew she couldn't be underestimated. Meeting Miss Qiao is surely fate. Did he just one bounce shout the boss and trigger a bug? The man in front of them seemed slightly off. Raven, stay away from her. A gunshot rang out through the air, forcing FAL back several steps. Unlike when dealing with Qiao, FAL looked at B as if seeing something dirty, his eyes showing no hint of pretense. He shook his head and sighed deeply. Abby snorted. He seemed unexpectedly strong now. A defeated opponent has no right to speak like that. Then let Miss Qiao make the choice. FAL suddenly smiled. Different from before, when FAL saw AB. It was as if he had seen something dirty. His eyes showed his disdain without any attempt to hide it. He shook his head and sighed heavily. Poor Miss Qiao, she has such an unsympathetic man by her side. He seemed unexpectedly strong now. An underdog doesn't have the right to say that. Then let Miss Qiao make a choice. FAL suddenly smiled and placed his left hand elegantly on his suit collar. About who she prefers to be with. The young man's eyes were cold as he fired off shots without giving his opponent any chance to catch their breath. Hey, it's boring. Looks like you're scared. You men are so jealous. FAL moved gracefully and sidestepped perfectly to dodge the bullets. He removed his hat towards Qiao with an air of invitation. So, Miss Qiao, would you be willing to abandon that ungrateful man and continue our adventure together? Qiao was slightly taken aback by this sudden mention. The boy stood on the right side while FAL took up position on the left. The atmosphere was tense like a powder keg ready to explode. Their glares were so intense they seemed to spark flames, leaving Qiao unsure of what to say. But if she had to choose, Qiao raised her head seriously and without hesitation said, "Can't I have both?" In the town at the base of the tower, she thought this way and really did speak it out loud. After all, more adventure partners were always better, especially one as skilled in combat as AB. His white sighed deeply, his white mightily resting under his chin. He muttered for what seemed like the 100th time, "I can't stand being with such an unsympathetic man." Nabi didn't speak, but his cold gaze said everything. Since Qiao all had agreed to let FAL join them, that look made her shiver. But since things were already this way, with determination in mind, Qiao took a step forward. Man who wasn't even gentlemanly at all, but his icy gaze conveyed everything. Ever since Qiao agreed to let FAL come along, he had been giving her that cold look, making the hair on the back of her neck stand up. But now that things had reached this point, she couldn't take back what she had said. She steeled herself and moved forward with more determination than ever before. Then next, her long-awaited divine fishing rod. At the mention of it, Qiao's spirit soared. Without a moment's hesitation, she walked through the portal as blinding white light flashed around her. The familiar buildings of the small town greeted her eyes. She took a deep breath and suddenly flipped open her calendar to confirm that the time was still within the fishing festival. I remember Jeremy said it should be after the second fishing competition down south. In an ordinary floor, she could access her system's adventure task list. Seeing only half an hour left until the southern fishing contest and her appointment with Jeremy, Qiao immediately frowned, barely noticing the two men following behind her as she dashed out of the map at full speed toward the South District River. The new round of fishing competition was just beginning. Qiao arrived right on time. She flicked her hair back, dropped her backpack, and swiftly switched to her long fishing rod from the quick slot bar with seamless fluidity, causing a slight easing in her brow. Ripples danced across the water's surface as shadows of various fish appeared in the clear waters below. At the moment bubbles emerged, Qiao called up the line with lightning-these fast clicks, reeling them into her buckets moodily and steadily. Despite not knowing why, she felt unexpectedly exhilarated by this fishing session. Qiao let out a sigh of relief. There are about 20 minutes left. I should make it to my date on time. Even if she didn't, she had no choice but to push through. After all, for the divine fishing rod, she had raced back from F3 with everything she had. How could she give up now? With that thought in mind, Qiao sped up her actions, determined to leave all competitors behind as quickly as possible. Knowing what was at stake, Jiao felt unexpectedly exhilarated as she cast her line. She let out a sigh of relief. There are about 20 minutes left. I should make it to the date on time. Even if she didn't, she had no choice but to push forward. She had risked everything to return from F3 for this divine fishing rod and couldn't afford to give up now. With that thought in mind, Qiao sped up her movements. In just 15 minutes to catch over 100 fish, leaving the second-place competitor far behind. After quickly going through the award ceremony animations, she stuffed her medal and rewards into her pocket before sprinting off towards their meeting spot. Qiao Kuei-yo, you're here. She heard hurried footsteps approaching from behind. The dark-shinned young man turned to face her, his hands casually resting on his hips as warm sunlight bathed him in a gentle glow. Qiao took a deep breath and suppressed the exhaustion of her sprint, feigning nonchalance with an obvious question. She nearly blurted out how long it had been since they last saw each other. Though she felt like she had spent ages in F3 fighting through floors, there was indeed some time difference between them. Perhaps the intense battles made everything feel longer than it actually was. It's nothing special really, he said with a smile that seemed to hint at shyness as his cheeks flushed slightly. I just wanted to give you something. With the divine fishing rod in hand, Qiao felt an immense sense of accomplishment and relief. She tested out her new prize briefly by casting it into any nearby river. It was still incredibly smooth. Since my fishing level is now on par with my workbench's level, I should start building a fishing base during the downtime. Qiao hadn't forgotten about establishing a fishing base in Feng but planned to do so after completing the main storyline of F2. She also needed to build her own base and race with all special NPCs. There were still many tasks ahead that she would tackle one by one. It felt incredibly smooth. Since my fishing level and the current workstation's level are about the same now, I might as well establish a fishing base during this idle time, she thought. Yo-Yo hadn't forgotten her plan to build a fishing base in Feng, but she wanted to wait until after completing the main storyline of F2 before doing so. She also had plans to set up her own base and race with all special NPCs. There was still much left to do. The crops at my farm should be ready for harvesting again. You'll go back first, Yo-Yo mused, walking along the path leading home. As she approached, a scene unlike what she imagined awaited. Crowfar and AD had arrived ahead of her, causing some sort of commotion. Ulrich was standing before them with his arms crossed, tension palpable in the air. Yo-Yo. Celia's cheerful voice rang out first as the small girl ran towards Yo-Yo with a radiant smile on her face. Her sweet demeanor momentarily distracted Yo-Yo from the brewing conflict behind her. Celia misses you so much. Take me along next time, okay? Celia pleaded. The purple quite hurriedly, the purple arm and mana-shaped eyes crinkled in delight. Not missing an opportunity to show off and win over Yo-Yo. The worried look on her face made Yo-Yo feel deeply moved. Beautiful girls are truly amazing. Unable to resist Celia's charm, Yo-Yo readily agreed. Sure, we'll go together next time. Finally back. Celia suddenly appeared beside Yo-Yo, pulling the girl into his arms with a hint of displeasure in his voice. I was worried when I lost contact with you earlier. But explain these two extra people first, he added. In Feng, the scene was chaotic. At least for Yo-Yo it felt that way. Dispute God Celia, Demon Yuri X, and Crowfar stood amidst the turmoil. Celia suddenly appeared beside Yo-Yo as well. The young god habitually pulled the girl into his embrace, a hint of displeasure evident in his voice. But first you need to explain those two extra people. Chapter 52. The scene was chaotic. At least for Yo-Yo it felt that way. Dispute God Celia, Demon Yuri X, Ravenhead Far-El, Spider Girl Celia, and the Observer AD at the bottom of the tower. Yo-Yo had never before felt so crowded in the farm below the tower. Really unbearable, Far-El said first, breaking the silence with a commanding tone as he scanned the room. I need you all to myself. You don't have any business here. Don't know who you're talking to. Yuri X sneered, lifting his crimson eyes and pulling Yo-Yo roughly beside him. He declared ownership without hesitation. This guy is mine, better not be looking at him. The demon licked his teeth with a dangerous smile. Or else I won't care what happens. Celia was clearly unhappy. He inserted himself between the two, pushing them apart forcefully. Yo-Yo's my follower, you better stay away from her. After shooting daggers at all the men in the room, Celia took a deep breath and calmed down. As she grabbed Yo-Yo's hand with an innocent look on her face, Celia wants to be with Yo-Yo. Mei-Di remained silent as he lifted his gaze. His cold eyes seemed to hold some emotion when they met Yo-Yo's, but it was fleeting, almost impossible to catch. Yo-Yo felt the pressure mounting. So what exactly is going on? This tense atmosphere feels like a fight could break out at any moment. Can adventurers attack each other? Shouldn't there be no such rule? Hey everyone, calm down. For now it was safe, but to avoid the worst maze in aerial Yo-Yo. Lost capture, really boring, muttered Yo-Yo, the immense pressure inexplicably mounting on her shoulders. So what exactly is going on now? This tense atmosphere feels like a fight could break out at any moment. Can adventurers attack each other? Shouldn't there be rules against that? Hey everyone, maybe calm down a bit. Safe for the time being. To avoid the worst case scenario, Yo-Yo had to work hard to soothe them all and successfully made her way to Feng. Why here specifically? Because she could only come here now since it was the closest floor from the base town at the tower's bottom. F2, F4 were mysteriously sealed off. The teleportation devices wouldn't activate. It wasn't clear if this was a bug or something that Eye of Magic had set up again. Either way, it left everyone confused as hell. The festival was over, but they couldn't advance to higher floors yet. However, this didn't mean everything would be idle because there were still tasks from Feng unfinished. They could take advantage of the downtime and get more done, increasing their game completion rate. If we can't go anywhere else for now, let's just establish a base here on Feng. With that thought in mind, they set up camp right away. Yo-Yo moved all her belongings to Feng, but before she did, daring to come back here? A familiar irate voice rang out from nearby. Yo-Yo sidestepped deftly as a spinning axe whizzed past her head. She turned around just in time to see the Pumpkin Chen twins standing on top of the ruins. Perfect, we can settle our score. Louis's snarling words were cut short when Yo-Yo thrust a bouquet of roses at him. The vibrant red flowers glistened with dewdrops from being freshly picked. Their fragrance wafted through his pumpkin hat and brought back memories that made Louis blush furiously. Long time no see, here's your welcome gift, said Yo-Yo brightly. And this is for you too, Rudy. Unlike his aggressive brother, Rudy was more laid-on back. Hearing he had a present as well, he paused momentarily in surprise. The fragrance of the pumpkin had mass wafted into his nostrils, and Louis's previous memories resurfaced once again. He blushed to the roots of his ears in embarrassment and froze on the spot. Long time no see, said Chiao with a bright smile. I even got something for Lou too this time. Unlike her aggressive brother, little Lou was more laid a present as well. His steps faltered slightly and he hummed in interest, the pitch of his voice rising at the end. His expression hidden behind the mask, it was hard to tell what he felt. Sis is really thoughtful, said Lou with a tone that suggested he knew just how much effort Kia had put into pleasing everyone. To clear out this wasteland, Xiao made an entire set of bunks at the base town and stuffed her backpack full. First things first, pick a suitable spot. She then began to unleash chaos with her explosives. She started near the riverbank, clearing away the difficult warrendal with bunks before setting up a workbench where she crafted a junk recycling machine, a new kind of slot machine that would occasionally spit out something useful when you threw in unwanted items. Once all the stone fragments were fed into the recycling machine, everything was just beginning. Time to start building our fishing base. Feng Chapter 53. To establish a solid foundation, materials are key. From the model book on her workbench, Chiao moved out large-scale simulated buildings and placed them in green construction zones, where tents appeared instantly. Fishing base 0%, wood 0-100, stone 0-200, iron ingots 0-10, nail 0-50th. All we have to do now is wait for it to complete. She pulled out materials from her backpack and stuffed them all in. The construction percentage slowly began to rise, leaving the rest up to time. Of course, she could also use acceleration coupons to speed things along provided she had some on hand. Wood 0-100, stone 0-200, iron ingot 0-10th, nails 0-50th. Just put them in and wait for it to finish. She pulled everything out of her pack and stuffed it all inside. The construction progress slowly began to rise from 0%. All that was left now was time. Of course, she could use acceleration tokens to speed up the process provided she had any. Let's start with the main base, something I can call home. She watched as bombs exploded wildly, then fed some of the debris into her recycling machine and the rest into her concrete mixer. It was all about efficiency. The houses came in various shapes and sizes, each with its own blueprint. Players could customize them to their liking so long as they had enough materials. Yo-Yo wasn't picky when it came to housing. She just wanted something spacious and functional. She chose a design that caught her eye and set it down on the ground. Even though I've gathered plenty of resources, there's still this nagging feeling that I don't have quite enough. Just like in those simulation games she used to play, resource generation was slower than what she could gather by hand, leaving her short when she needed them most. But she had planned for the long term. She sorted through the contents of her recycling machine and concrete mixer into a box on one side. The materials were random but fairly easy to break down back to their base components, which helped fill some gaps in her inventory. Yo-Yo rummaged through her pack again, considering what to do next. With my current resources, after building the main base and fishing station, I can probably build 2 more structures. 2 buildings wasn't bad at all. She flipped through the blueprints on her workbench. The farm is definitely top priority. Potatoes are my currency and roses are essential. Merchant rooms were special spaces for wandering traders to rest, places they might settle in if comfortable enough. 蓝钱 对 地 凤 F 4 C 手 凤 玩意 拍摄戏 The creature wore a golden bell. It lay amidst the ruins, its eyes half closed and its body curled up in apparent agony. Its fur was stained with blood that had spread across the ground, creating vivid red patches against the backdrop of desolation. Yo-Yo stared at this dying being for quite some time. Her mind focused on one thought: could it be another random event? Since she couldn't check her taskbar during a floor challenge, Yo-Yo wasn't sure. But the timing and location felt significant. After pondering briefly, Yo-Yo decided to lend a hand. She reached into her backpack and pulled out some healing potions that had been stockpiled earlier. Fortunately, these human use potions could also be used on cats soon enough. The creature's blood bar turned from red back to green, bringing relief to Yo-Yo. Is it because of an ongoing negative effect? She wondered aloud as she watched the health bar gradually decrease before her eyes. Yo detested continuous bleeding effects in any game. They could lead to unexpected deaths and drain her healing potions quickly. Thankfully, she had bandages on hand that would help mitigate this issue. She carefully wrapped a white bandage around the wound and secured it with a large ball, nodding contentedly as she did so before glancing at the now stabilized health bar. With the cat still unconscious in her arms, Yo carried it back to base. On a workbench, she crafted a simple blanket for the creature and laid it down gently on top of it. Just when she was about to continue exploring nearby, an enormous explosion erupted from behind her. Turning around, Yo-Yo saw blue flames burning not far away, with 2 familiar figures hovering above them. Just say so, your ex sneered, his voice booming across the area as he shot out streams of blue firelight bullets. Wanting to stay by Yo-Yo's side is a pipe dream. Do you know what first come, first served means? So that's why I can't stand being around someone like you, Yufei said coolly, holding his black cane with an elegant pose. You're just a hypocritical crow, Yuri sneered as he bellowed out loud. Blue flames shot from his hand like bullets, sending up clouds of smoke and debris that obscured the sky. You're still 10,000 years away from being by Yo-Yo's side. So I see why we don't get along, Pharaoh said with a wave of his black cane, effortlessly deflecting the incoming flames. His wings spread wide and black feathers fluttered in the smoke. Look like someone as crude as you. Besides, she deserves better. The abyssal demon sneered again, tightening his grip on his weapon. A mere crow talking big. They fought from the sky to the ground and back up into the heavens. Dust swirling around them like a demolition crew tearing down buildings. Though they were fighting fiercely with the intent of killing each other, it didn't matter much given this tower's resurrection system. In fact, Yo-Yo quite enjoyed their demolition mode. It saved her the trouble of making bombs, as she could simply pick up the debris and recycle it afterward. About time you looked at me, a melodious voice rang out. Archie almost reached for popcorn to watch this spectacle, but was suddenly drowned by a sweet boy's tone. The gray-haired deity glowed with golden light as if fireflies danced around him. Sylvia huffed and crossed her arms over her chest. How could that be? Yo-Yo scratched the back of her neck nervously. She was after all a core member of the bloodline flow, supporting her through thick and thin. If she ignored her deity too much, blessings would weaken. And especially since Sylvia had such an innocent childlike nature. To mend their bond, Yo-Yo quickly pulled out a bouquet of roses from her backpack and handed it to him with sincerity in her eyes. Not bad. The relationship had grown too cold for the blessing to be affected if a deity didn't respond to its followers. It would be the worst outcome, especially since her god was so childish. To mend their long months forgotten bond, Yo-Yo pulled out a beautiful bouquet of roses from her backpack and thrust them into his hands. Looking at him with genuine sincerity, Celia is important to me. That's not such a bad answer. The young deity unexpectedly took it well. His ears turned red without him realizing. But this harmonious atmosphere didn't last long. Celia had just thought about brushing Yo-Yo's stray hair behind her ear, when she boldly pounced into Yo-Yo's arms using her feminine privilege. Her voice as sweet as honey. Yo-Yo. The tactic worked perfectly. Yo-Yo's gaze shifted to her immediately. Did you come down too? Because Yo-Yo is here, Celia said with a blush that looked like she was blushing from shyness. Spider's girl Abby stood atop the ruins and noticed Yo-Yo's glance. He turned his head back and lowered his military cap in response. Why did everyone come down? Was it not allowed to have so many adventurers on one floor? The most terrifying situation occurred. Egg-At had transformed into a handsome young man, lying naked in her bed. When Yo-Yo felt warm suddenly at her belly, she nearly jumped out of the bed as if electrocuted. This scene only happened in shoujo manga was now happening in reality. Hungry? Prepare food for me. The black cat transformed into a young man stretched lazily. He seemed indifferent to Yo-Yo's shocked expression and continued lying on the soft bed, his fluffy tail twitching inside the blankets. Was this just a random event? Was it really just a coincidence that such an occurrence could happen? This is truly a random event, isn't it? Appeared. I'm hungry. Quickly prepare some food for me. The black cat stretched lazily after transforming into a human form. He seemed indifferent to Claw's shocked expression as if struck by lightning and continued lounging on the soft bed with his fluffy tail shaking beneath the covers. Was this just another random event? Was it really that simple? Kung Chio paused in thought for an instant. Cat seed fish, right? The basic facilities were almost complete. The fishing base produced a lot of fresh fish daily, but most went into Chill special dishes with various effects. Thinking this over, she opened the specially stored boxes filled with 99 sets each of Hymen sets each of hide before her big battle. There are so many types, I wonder which one he likes. Fidgeting and sitting awkwardly on a chair, Kiao had gone to find clothes for him at the town below the tower, where she spent quite some pocket money. She bought several sets of clothing. It was hard for her to resist changing outfits. Even when playing similar games before, she would spend real money just to dress up her virtual characters. Perfectly, she really got into it. Human food is surprisingly good, exclaimed the black cat as if he had discovered a new continent. His tail wagged left and right, finishing all of Chiao's dishes on the table in one go before looking at her with an expectant gaze. I want more. If this were any ordinary NPC, Chiao would have already skipped out. Cursed fluffy fur. She didn't hesitate to bring another full course up for him. Kiao looked up and asked the catboy absorbed in his meal, propping her chin on one hand. By the way, what's your name? 3 question mark hovered above the catboy's head. Signs of NPCs yet to exchange names with players, replied the catboy amiably. His golden eyes lifted as he asked back. He all smiled. Reasons began to swirl in her mind again. Zhao looked up at the engrossed young boy and asked, "Hey, what's your name?" The cat was adorned with 3 question marks, say special sign, indicating that he hadn't exchanged names with a player yet. Replied the cat quite cheerfully, his golden eyes lifting to meet hers. Zhao smiled and answered, "I'm Zhao." The name Valkyrie sounded strangely familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. Thinking this over, Zhao flipped through her adventure book and found the entry with a bit of residual memory. F4's boss, Valkyrie, Zhao. Holy crap. Whilst flipping open the book in the right way, she took deep breaths, then quickly closed and reopened it again, but the text remained unchanged. She kept her calm while still doubting herself. Isn't it odd that F4's boss would appear here in form? Full of confusion, when Zhao brought this up to Valkyrie, he tilted his head slightly as if pondering. I escaped from there. Zhao blinked. There was such a thing. The cat wished its tail, still looking quite cheerful. Yeah, that's right. Who kicked you out? Intuition told her this wasn't as simple as she thought. She wondered if it had something to do with the floor lockdown mess and carefully asked, was it the tower's decision? Valkyrie said, it was a group called Magic Eye. The golden man helped me escape there. Things were getting complicated, especially since this complexity seemed to jump straight over several levels. Didn't they aim to topple the Height Hour? Zhao recalled what Abby had told her about the truth and fell into deep thought once more, then suddenly realized something. It was a golden mine whose name she couldn't remember. He had helped her escape. Such a great guy. Things were getting complicated now. The complexity of it all made her feel like she'd skipped ahead to the next level. Magic Eye organization, didn't they aim to topple the tower? Yo recalled what Abby had told her earlier and fell into deep thought. Then realization dawned on her, so that means we're teammates. False ending wish for a happy life. True ending slay the gods. That must be the right path. If only I could contact them, more allies mean stronger. Apart from phone's adventure floors and normal floors being locked down, she had already cleared the first 3 levels. The boss of F4 was currently in absentia, so it seemed like she could head straight to the top, though she'd need to set up her own teleportation platform. But reaching the peak means the game is almost over. Yo still had a lot left, and she at least wanted to complete her favorite infrastructure projects. And I should prepare more potions before heading into battle. Just in case. Without having faced the tower's god yet, she didn't know what kind of gameplay mode. It would be better safe than sorry. When are you going to get rid of this guy? Yuri X suddenly swept her off her feet and held her away from Narkly, who was still sitting quietly in his chair. He gripped her chin forcefully, making her look up at him with a predatory intensity that couldn't be ignored. As my servant, don't you think it's too greedy? She tried to speak, but he bit down on her lower lip, swallowing the words she wanted to say. It was an incredibly dominant kiss, asserting his claim over her. Though kisses didn't really affect Yo anymore, there was still a slight embarrassment from being so openly kissed in front of others. Finally showing some cute expressions, Yuri X smirked as if he had seen something amusing and reached for her lips again. An extremely dominant kiss, as if declaring his ownership. Though such a kiss wouldn't ruffle Joe's feathers anymore, she was used to it by now. The act of doing so in front of others still made her feel a bit embarrassed. Finally showing some cuteness, Yuri seemed amused, raising an eyebrow. He intended to claim the girl's lips again, but paused for just a moment, when 2 black cat ears came closer instead. He said with understanding, "The taste of that impudent demon's contract is on your tongue. No wonder you've been acting strange." The young feline lightly touched her lip, and the scent peculiar to demons wafted up. He frowned involuntarily. "I don't like this smell." Seemingly wanting to erase it from her body, he leaned in again with his tongue covering hers, trying to mask it. "Joe, there was something odd going on here." "No, very odd indeed." Yuri held her from behind while an arco blocked her front. The demon's murderous gaze and kiss trapped her lips between them, putting Joe into an awkward sandwich situation that made her feel a bit uneasy. Demons viewed things differently than humans or cats did, so they only felt annoyed when something belonging to one of their own was taken over by another. To them, It was just a form of challenge, but for the normal by thinking Joe. She felt quite embarrassed and would be even more so if someone saw her now. Author's note. AWW. Chapter 55 BO says battle. Construction in Phone was almost complete. All major structures were finished, but internal settings remained crucial. Jost rode along a recently built stone path, checking her adventure book as she walked. I bought some furniture blueprints from the town at the base of the tower. To make building easier outside her main base, Jo had crafted many workbenches and placed them in various spots, much more convenient than carrying one around all the time. Each room would have its own unique setup. For instance, a random wandering merchant's quarters could be set up simply on the stone path she had built. Yo-Yo spoke as she opened her adventure book to check it. I bought some furniture blueprints in the town at the base of the tower. To make construction easier outside her main base, Yo-Yo crafted numerous workstations and placed them all over different areas. This was much more convenient than carrying everything on her person. Each room had its own unique setup. For example, simple basic furnishings were suitable for random wandering merchants who would settle in temporarily. If she wanted a specific merchant as NPC to move in, she needed to place items they liked to increase the chances of their. Yo-Yo now successfully housed 3 merchant NPC as an agricultural trader, a clothing merchant, and a rancher. The rest still awaited development, but it wouldn't take long. With that thought, Yo-Yo began crafting furniture from materials pulled out of her backpack and mixed together. Unlike large buildings, the items on workstations didn't require as much waiting time to complete. Next, just place them here. Following the green squares indicating where they could be placed, she set down each piece of crafted furniture. Seeing the comfort level increase, Yo-Yo nodded in satisfaction before moving on to another empty house that had been built. She walked through several rooms and crafted many pieces of furniture, even arranging everything neatly along both sides of the stone path. Lanterns, wooden benches with backs, and task assignment boards were all set up. Before this, she had spent a lot of time chopping down trees to make decorative fences around her base. Once done, Yo-Yo let out a sigh as she wiped sweat from her forehead. I have my farm and ranch now. The next step is just waiting for wandering NPCs and merchants to move in. It was all about timing at this point. With that thought, she continued walking slowly past an enormous ruin. Perhaps it'll be done when I return. The teleportation platform leading to the top of the tower had been completed intermittently, while she worked on other buildings. So engrossed in everything else, this process didn't take as long as expected. Tower God. When wishing for something during gameplay, their true form hadn't appeared. Yo-Yo wondered what kind of existence they were. Suddenly smiling, Yo-Yo walked toward the teleportation platform without hesitation. But since I've come to this point, the teleportation platform leading to the top of the tower had been intermittently constructed while she was busy with other buildings. Perhaps because her attention was fully absorbed elsewhere, this process turned out to be unexpectedly brief. Oh Tower Spirit, what are you? When making a wish in the game, it didn't even reveal its true form. Who knows what kind of existence it is? Yo-Yo suddenly smiled as she walked towards the teleportation platform without hesitation. Well, since I've come this far, there's no turning back now. Fighting the final hidden boss was different from battling regular bosses. It seemed that having an adventuring companion in your party was allowed. As soon as she arrived at the top of the tower via the teleportation platform, it felt like something snapped inside her head, and everything except for her adventure book became unresponsive. The darkness before her eyes was thick with a wet, foul smell. She continued to move forward. It wasn't always like this. Previously, reaching the top of the tower had been adorned with flowers and splendor. Now it felt like another world entirely. As she ventured deeper, her vision gradually brightened. Then, after a moment, a slot machine fell from the sky with a loud crash, landing in a pool of crimson blood. The yellow light on top of the slot machine flickered brightly, almost blindingly so, as if to announce its presence. Is it fixed tops? Unlike other floors where any currency could be used for spins, this one clearly stated what was needed: 100 units of blood per spin. Yo-Yo glanced at the long string of health points above her head and felt no fear as a blood 10 player. With eyes closed and hand pulled down, She heard the clinking sound of gears turning rapidly before coming to an abrupt halt with the sound of fireworks exploding. Flower bloom town flowers bloom wherever you step. If your enemy walks on them, they explode, restoring some health if they kill the enemy. Yo-Yo felt enlightened and saw this floor's talent is obtained by spinning. She wanted to pull down the lever again, but lowered her gaze and noticed something appearing above. Bloom of blossoms diffed as you walk through a place. Flowers bloom under your feet. If an enemy steps on the flower, it will explode and deal damage to them. Should these blooms take down their foes, they'll heal you slightly as well. Yo-Yo felt enlightened, so that's how it works. This layer's effect is obtained through a slot machine. She had intended to pull the lever again, but noticed an alteration in the conditions displayed above her. Heal all enemies within 5 minutes. With the sound of something burbling and approaching from behind, Yo-Yo pulled down the lever. As she moved across the open ground, using her new gift to create a carpet of blooming flowers beneath her feet, she reached for the on her finger. The blossoms were surprisingly effective against these creatures that could burrow underground and evade damage. A single explosion would trigger a chain reaction, creating a continuous series of pops as one flower after another detonated around her. She moved swiftly to fill the gaps left by each blast, setting up new blooms for the next wave. It was unexpectedly useful, especially when dealing with hordes of enemies. Which Sire curse your attack power is reduced by 10%, and there's a 5% chance that you'll lose some health on every normal strike. Yo-Yo sighed. I didn't expect to get cursed from this slot machine. My luck really hasn't changed. She rolled her eyes well, amused to it. The next 2 pulls were just more blood loss. Rainbow Cloud Gift Taper perpetually smiling cloud that can absorb damage for you. When sufficiently provoked, it will enter a rage and indiscriminately attack everything around it. Super Sandwich. Some random person left this sandwich behind. Eating it might give you an odd effect. Chapter 56 BOVS Battle. The last layer's mechanics were incredibly unpredictable. Not only did the slot machine spit out anything, but each room had a completely different gameplay mode. Entering a state of fury, one would indiscriminately attack everything nearby. Super Sandwich Chase and which left by someone unknown. Chapter 56 The Boss Battle. The mechanism on the last floor was truly random. Not to mention that slot machine where anything could come out. Each room here had a completely different game mode, seamlessly blending all previous floors' gameplay and constantly alternating. Another meeting for you, adventurer. You look very energetic. In the silence, a gentle voice suddenly drifted by her ear. Yo-Yo couldn't help but pause slightly in surprise. She turned to see rusted iron bars first, then golden-haired man dressed in white suit covered with blood stains, looking disheveled. Yo-Yo remembered him though time had blurred some details. She opened her mouth and said, "Ah, your name is Alar." No, it wasn't so much a question about where he was as why he looked like this. After all, these anomalies were brought on by the Magic Eye organization. Simply put, Alar smiled but with an unexpected calmness. I failed to resist. I guess the tower will wipe me out soon. Approached him and said, although you say that, you don't look tense at all. Perhaps not. More like incredibly relaxed. My shoulders feel much lighter, he replied with a slight smile. But let's move on, adventurer. Have you made your choice? Yo-Yo asked again. Alar didn't avoid her gaze. Do you choose to submit and live in this dreamlike world or crush everything to save the broken reality? He was talking about the false ending versus the true one. She thought for a moment before asking him back. You care so much. Can't I satisfy my curiosity as someone on death's doorstep? You're really quite callous, he said with a shrug, with a gaze that spoke volumes. She replied, is it choosing to surrender and live in this dreamlike world of beauty, or crush everything to save the shattered reality? So you're talking about the false ending versus the true one? She pondered for a moment before answering with another question. You care about this. Can't I satisfy my curiosity as in dying? Aranel's face remained unchanged despite his words. He even chuckled a few times. But it doesn't matter either way because neither outcome suits me. Good luck to you, adventurer. That guy is completely corrupted. Corruption. New term she had never encountered before in the game. Was this another update after that mainline-like storyline? Totally unclear. The strange phenomena of this level and Aaron L's appearance left her bewildered. Speaking of which, since entering this floor, all monsters have been covered with odd black spots. Could that be what you call corruption? Moon had accompanied her as a pet. According to the game's lore, she should be pure, capable of purifying everything around her. But now, blood-gnawed moonlight was seeping through the corrupted level. That's quite troublesome. Yo-Yo crossed her arms and began pondering seriously. Maybe I can use some purification intalents or items from the slot machine. Or a gun-equipped pistol that fires pure white pearls with cleansing power. Or ring-equipped faintly glowing pearl ring, giving an indescribable sense of comfort. Everything here is corrupted, yet I haven't turned into Aranel because I'm wearing all dear. She looked at her hand holding the white pearl ring and fell deep in thought. Then she suddenly summoned the Aurora gun as if testing something, aiming it directly at Moon without hesitation. With a sharp click, she fired. The pearl ring gave her an indescribable sense of comfort. Everything here has been tainted, but I didn't turn out like Aranel because I'm wearing Aurora's equipment, she thought as she looked at the white pearl ring on her hand and fell into deep contemplation. Suddenly, she summoned the Aurora's gun again, aiming it directly at her mere pet Moon without hesitation. The white pearls zipped through the air with explosive force, slicing through the polluted aura in an instant. The blood receded to reveal the familiar moonlight. So that's how it is. The white pearl must be she here. Just then, Yo-Yo had a sudden idea. Lowering her head slightly, she pondered carefully. If the tower's deity has been tainted, would I end up purifying rather than killing? What will my final outcome look like? True ending or false? Or perhaps there's no purification option at all? Let me see as it unfolds. She continued to advance through the rooms step by step, conquering each one and moving closer to the center room. Using her pearl gun to purify monsters and then finishing them off with a divine branch was easy when they were in their normal stage without the buffs from pollution. Everything seems fine here. After dispatching the last minor monster, Yo-Yo neatly sheathed her weapons, intending to head straight for the final rooms. But an unexpected surge of killing intent made her stop abruptly and instinctively step aside. It was a throwing knife. Taishio swept past her ear, cold with a hint of rust, but thankfully her reflexes were quick enough that only a few strands of hair near her face fell victim to the blade. The scene felt strangely familiar. Did I dodge it? Black rabbit mask. Oddly dressed yet incredibly cool. This time I won't miss. A small boss battle before facing the big one. That's not quite right, since Eye of Magic's ultimate goal is to destroy this place. But reality didn't give Yo-Yo much time to think as several more throwing knives sped towards her again. A strange but unexpectedly cool teenager appeared, wielding his signature flying knife Black Rabbit, another high-mao ranking officer of the Eye of Magic. Hopefully this time I won't miss. Was it a small boss battle before the big one? Not quite. The Eye of Magic's ultimate goal was to destroy everything here. Why would they fight for the tower? But reality didn't give JoJo much time. Several flying knives zipped towards her, and she instinctively conjured up a divine contract to deflect them, even though I don't know what's going on. It seems you aren't interested in talking. As she dodged the incoming barrage of blades while keeping an eye on him, JoJo gritted her teeth and activated Burn Blood Blessing for full power. I won't be gentle then. Chapter 57 Boss Battle. The rabbit's plate. Pearl bullets fired from her or a gun pierced through its body with dazzling light. Thinking it was over, the opponent suddenly divided itself into multiple bodies, gaining new life. From 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5 JoJo found herself surrounded by a horde of rabbits, unable to move an inch. The blood on the ground had been contaminated by black mud from the split rabbit, making the sticky surface even harder to traverse. Contamination 30%. Contamination 35%. Contamination 40%. Though she didn't know what these red system notifications meant. At this rate, reaching full contamination would lead to something terrible. She had to end the fight before it reached that point. The pearls from her or a gun could suppress the spread of black mud and temporarily disperse its sticky surface, but the gun was just a support. Its damage was negligible. JoJo needed to use her divine contract form for heavy strikes, followed by pearl bullets to finish off the rabbits. Because of this limitation, Jojo found it slightly harder to fight. She could now take full advantage of Burn Blood Blessing without hesitation. But this gun is merely auxiliary, its damage is so low it's barely noticeable. You must use the forearm to deliver a heavy blow and then with pearl bullets, or else the rabbits will keep splitting indefinitely, never ending, becoming an eternal battle engine. Due to these limitations, Yo-Yo finds herself slightly strained in combat. After all, now that she has become Blood Ox, using blessings is no big deal for her under full attribute boosts. It's really easy for her to take down one with each shot. Rubber bullet: the bullet bounces off an object twice before disappearing, reduces damage by 5%. Toxic gas bullet adds a layer of poison to the bullet that continuously damages enemies. Magic bullet has a 50% chance to either kill or heal the enemy. This level's experience is unique, it can automatically absorb. Though its range is small, still quite useful. Reducing damage isn't bad now, Yo-Yo thought. Then, without blinking an eye, she chose the toxic gas bullet. While this might be good given the current situation, reducing damage doesn't sound cool at all. The skill description sounds fancy, but honestly, Yo-Yo prefers full firepower suppression. The toxic gas bullet adds a layer of poison to any bullet, whether it's pearl or regular, but naturally, in these circumstances, using R or a gun would be better. It just tests your reaction speed. The horde of black rabbits swarmed her. Yo fired off pearl bullets, with the Aurora gun while dodging and weaving like never before. Deadly infection: the poison spreads across enemies. Stackable. Giant carrot tractor summons a carrot-shaped tractor that harvests flowers left by players on the ground, triggering explosions as it does so. Flame missile: every free attacks launch an automatic missile from the player to attack enemies. Those hit will sustain burning damage. Seems pretty good, Yo-Yo mused. She glanced at her talents briefly due to the tense situation and chose Deadly Infection because she wanted a cohesive skill set. Stacking poison is quite powerful. Missile automatically attack the enemies, causing a sustained burning effect on any target it hit. Feels pretty good, he muttered as he glanced at his talent abilities. The current situation was tense enough that Jo hadn't had time to think much since she had chosen gas grenades earlier. She figured adding poison would complete her playstyle. Poison stacking was powerful before the crossover. She used it extensively in games and caused massive damage with unlimited stacks. With a deep breath, Jo did a backflip to dodge the charging rabbits. Pearl bullets fired out, purple toxins spreading upon impact, creating vivid hues against the sky. Though there was some oddity to combining purifying pearls with poison, but that didn't matter as long as she won in the end. The number of rabbits made it easy for the toxin from lethal infection to spread quickly. Before they knew it, all the rabbits were afflicted by purple debuffs, their eyes filled with agony. All I have to do now is wait, Jo thought confidently. The poison rained 5 points every few seconds. Each stack increased the damage dealt. Since her purification pearls killed off any lingering toxins when a rabbit died, she was essentially automating the process of defeating them. Jo dodged as the rabbits fell one by one until only the last remained. Jo heard someone shout in disbelief. Impossible! 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 The final rabbit staggered on its feet, not collapsing immediately, but moving with a slow animation that seemed to convey something important. Curious about what it might be, Jo approached cautiously and removed the mask of the black rabbit. A strikingly handsome face greeted her sharp features, long wavy eyelashes framing eyes like deadroots in early morning light. Please kill me, he whispered through clenched teeth, his expression altered as if something was tearing him apart inside. With such thoughts in mind, Xiao boldly approached him and took off the mask on his face to see what expression he was wearing. Flawless complexion with sharp angles framed a cold yet handsome face. Long, slightly curled lashes hid eyes as clear as deadroots. This was a beautiful young man whose appearance had captured Xiao's heart completely. What amazing looks, too dazzling. Please kill me. His expression was pained, struggling against something intangible. His brows furrowed tightly. He squeezed out the last words with all his strength. I have been contaminated. So that's why he charged in without hesitation when polluted. Now that the pollution levels had dropped, Black Rabbit regained some of his sanity. Although it seems a bit difficult, how could she bear to harm such beauty? Chapter 58 Boss Battle. She gently stroked the boy's cheek with her fingertips, wiping away the black mud and revealing his fair, delicate features that perfectly matched her taste. By the way, what's your name? The pain she expected didn't come instead. A soft voice greeted her. He lifted his head in surprise, directly meeting those blue eyes. Perhaps he had never encountered such a situation before or was dazzled by this girl's radiant smile. The dull-gray Black Rabbit moved his lips slightly. I am Black Rabbit. I know that. Kiao Kiao blinked, but I'm asking for your real name. Real name? Black Rabbit pondered for a moment, confusion evident in his eyes. I don't understand, he said apologetically. This development and character setup made Chiao imagine all sorts of possibilities like an artificial being. But it wasn't the time to dwell on this now. Never mind, Black Rabbit is quite a nice name. Black Rabbit pondered for a moment, his expression filled with confusion and uncertainty reflected in his eyes. Sorry, I don't get it. This development left Chiao imagining all sorts of scenarios like classic androids or something similar, but she realized this wasn't the time to dwell on such things. Black Rabbit is a nice name too, said Kiao with a smile as she extended her hand towards the young man sitting on the ground. After finishing all their business, Kiao told him about White Dove and the teleportation altar's location. Dawn was still uneasy, but better than this polluted place at least for now. She watched with a glance as he left before raising her war gun to clear out the next room. Magic flower poison. The flowers under your feet explode, poisoning enemies who take damage over time. Blue ice tint. All flowers turn blue and freeze enemies for 2 seconds. When they explode, frozen enemies can't move and have reduced speed afterward. Burning flowers. All flowers ignite red and burn enemies, with a continuous fire effect that deals ongoing damage. 3 abilities related to flower blooming. Any of them would do, Kiao thought. Poison is always useful, but slowing down enemies with ice can be great too. In the end, she chose between poison and ice. After much deliberation, she picked blue ice tint. If my attacks are GG, using ice to slow them down, then poisoning with toxins. With this setup, Xiao charged through room after room, killing monsters that fell like dominoes once they were poisoned. 5 seconds later, they would drop dead automatically. She arrived at the last room. Singles were easy to control, but if they encountered poison immunity, it was game over. Using ice to slow down and then adding toxins for the bullets in his hand provided additional damage. It could be said that this approach was nearly perfect. With such a strategy, Jojo charged forward recklessly, slaughtering one room after another. Once monsters were infected with poison, they would automatically die within 5 seconds. Jojo arrived at the last room. A towering black door stood tall, its golden frame completely covered in dark sludge, barely visible through the murkiness. Raising Aurora's gun, Jojo fired several shots into the door. As pollution levels dropped to their lowest point, a sudden crack appeared and with a loud boom, the door shattered into irregular pieces that fell heavily onto the ground. Is it time for the boss battle? She muttered as she exhaled deeply, then stepped through the doorway without hesitation, her steps cautious yet determined, silent and cold. The black sludge swirled around like dark angels twisting in the air. The stench of pollution was more intense here than anywhere else, causing Jojo to furrow her brow almost immediately upon entry. Pollution level 90%. It was already near collapse. Raising Aurora's gun again, she shattered the gathering tendrils, but they soon reformed into a stubborn mass once more. Monsters without health bars are tough to take down, Jojo muttered as pollution levels dropped slightly before rising back up. Their healing speed was incredibly fast and made them quite troublesome. Wrinkling her nose against the foul odor, she pressed on deeper until her movements froze in place, revealing a fixed sequence of events unfolding before her eyes. The camera panned from front to back, then upward, first showing a statue holding flowers that had been battered beyond recognition. Behind it were broken angel wings lying shattered at its feet. Suddenly, the ground shook violently as massive hands descended upon the statue, delivering another devastating blow. Control returned to Jojo's character in this moment. The scene shifted again, from an expansive room to a long corridor connected to vast starry skies, surrounded by floating debris and herself weightless amidst it all. First, the statue stood with its delicate angel wings broken and shattered at its feet. Then came a violent tremor, followed by massive hands descending from above to deliver another devastating blow to the statue. Reclaiming control for the player, the scene transformed once more from an expansive room into a long corridor connected to vast starry skies, with floating debris surrounding her in zero gravity. Is this stage about Park Hour? Yo-Yo was clearly familiar with this sequence, especially after spotting the red warning circles on the ground. Obtain Dare Pack X1. Equip Dare Pack. She strapped the bright red pack to her back and clicked the connection button. The backpack's jets quickly propelled her forward, deftly avoiding the massive hands. Yo-Yo flipped in mid-air, adjusting to the weightlessness before focusing on using the jetpack to sprint down the corridor. The first boss had a variety of attacks: giant hand presses, sweeping motions, black mud cannons, summoning minions, and meteor showers. It was quite challenging, but Yo-Yo's quick reflexes helped her dodge most of them. Otherwise, she might have been sent tumbling into an abyssal void with one swipe. Something up ahead? Is it a prop? It was an upward arrow that made a clear sound when picked up. Suddenly, Yo-Yo noticed her air pack glowing and changing shape. Pack upgraded. Bullet backpack. The backpack will automatically launch bullets to kill approaching enemies. 59. BOSS battle. The tracking rounds fired from the backpack allowed Yo-Yo more freedom as she soared through the air without restraint. These bullets also stacked poison. As she flew forward, she kept an eye on the relentless boss behind her. Purple mists whirled around its massive hands, a clear sign of poisoning. Poison rapidly accumulated, visible to the naked eye from the first layer onwards, though each bullet's damage was minimal. Frequent hits increased the rate at which poison took hold. In this stage, patience would be key. Gunfire storm increases bullet count and firing speed. The bullets also had a stacking poison effect. As she flew forward, observing the relentless boss in pursuit behind her, a noticeable purple mist surrounded his massive hand, a clear sign of poisoning. The poison was visibly piling up from its initial stage, and although each bullet's damage was minimal, if they struck frequently enough, the rate at which he would be poisoned and increased rapidly. Barrage rain increases the number of bullets fired to 4 per shot. Devil's Dance. Each time a bullet is fired, 5 points of health are deducted. There's a 50% chance that an enemy will be instantly killed by each bullet. Violinist converts your weapon into a violin and plays notes that inflict different status effects on enemies. Isn't this violin thing pretty hardcore? I guess it's completely unlearned, JoJo said with a raised eyebrow, but probably turns the interface into something like an audio game. Although curious, I think it's better to be cautious now. Stacking poison required frequent attacks. Devil's Dance seemed counterintuitive. While the talent was tempting, without any healing related abilities or sufficient potions, die instantly could happen at any moment. After careful consideration, Joe clicked Barrage Rain, and immediately bullets began flying in rapid succession from her gun, visibly becoming more dense. Soon enough, the hand enveloped by mud started to dissolve as poison piled up relentlessly, draining its health with each hit. Almost a guaranteed kill now. Detected poison immunity. Second stage begins. 80% resistance against poison and damage. Way system notification echoed in her ear, nearly causing Joe to tumble mid-air. There's another layer of rules, although I had an inkling still to care less. Her first time at the tower peak meant she was learning as she went. This wasn't bad. It felt fresh and challenging compared to battling small bosses countless times before. From the second stage onward, the corridor beneath her feet began crumbling into pieces that floated in mid-air. Without a solid footing, JoJo leapt through the air, finding balance increasingly difficult. Shield back up, but now 80 is immune to poison. The poison could penetrate the shield. There was nothing wrong with this, and for Chiao, it felt fresh and challenging compared to the countless small bosses she had faced before. From the second stage onwards, the corridor beneath her feet shattered and fragments floated in mid-air, without any solid ground to stand on. Chiao leapt through the collapsing debris, struggling to find balance. Shield back up, but unfortunately immune to poison now. Poison could penetrate shields, making it a potent weapon against shielded monsters, but with phase immunity, she had to rely on bullets for slow and steady damage. A barrage of dense gunfire rained down from all directions, nearly blinding her as the boss appeared at fixed intervals within its frame, allowing players to deal real damage only during these moments. Fiery meteors streaked across the screen, splitting into smaller fragments upon collision with other projectiles. Sparking rocks collided and split again until they hit a player or disintegrated into harmless dust. One flaming meteor was manageable to vortexing, but 3 almost did hurting. With enough health to spare, Couchshell managed to dodge them without losing hope entirely. This went on for a short while, long enough to drive any player mad. From the 3rd stage onwards, she finally returned to solid ground, firmly stepping onto this familiar to the world within its confined frame. She dodged increasingly hellish projectiles and raised her gun, aiming at the ultimate boss with honor or a glow. In a flash, the boss fell. A dazzling purple mist marked its demise. Couchshell, the 3rd stage boss, was immune to poison after accumulating negative effects from stages 1 and 2. It went down with brutal simplicity. She pondered for a moment before concluding, stacking poisons is just too powerful. While the outcome seemed simple, the process was grueling. The dizzying array of projectiles almost silenced her completely. This should be the true ending, she thought as blinding light filled her vision and black sludge dissipated into specks. She opened her eyes once more. After suffering the negative effects, she was left with no choice but to go down in defeat, simple and straightforward. She pondered for a long time before concluding, we can only say that stacking poisons is incredibly powerful. The outcome seemed simple, but the process had been quite arduous. The dazzling barrage of projectiles nearly silenced her completely. This should be the true ending this time, she thought to herself as she emerged victorious and was momentarily blinded by a burst of light. Black muck dissipated into specks before her eyes vanished once more, revealing a pristine white expanse when she opened them again. Her delicate footpads created ripples in the air with each gentle step. The space around her felt clear and tranquil, an indescribable sense of peace washing over her as she wandered aimlessly. Budding flowers closed tightly, emitting wisps of dark vapor. In the center of this bright space, numerous fairies fluttered about with joyful smiles on their faces, guiding her forward and beckoning for her to extend a finger. A dazzling aura formed as starlight condensed. The final traces of darkness dissipated in the breeze, and the flower bud rooted into the ground trembled before its petals unfolded, revealing delicate pink hues. Then came the familiar system voice, good and purified world. It felt as if things had changed yet remained the same. Amidst the cluster of fairies, she returned effortlessly to Feng, where everyone seemed to be waiting for her. The young deity was the first to pounce upon her with a joyful smile that he couldn't hide. Welcome back. You really managed to solve that thing, your ex said as his hand slid into his pockets, ignoring Seori hanging off of Yo-Yo and pulling her roughly towards him before nipping at her aerobi. I've always found that sticky mess uncomfortable. Keep your dirty hands away from Miss Yo-Yo. Fairy used a teleportation spell to fly over the deity and demon. Picking up Yo-Yo in a bridal carry. The welcome ceremony should be performed by someone as beloved as me. Yuri X clicked his tongue with flames at the ready on his hand. Huh? A mere crow like you has quite an attitude. Fair sighed, helpless it seemed dealing with a violent monkey who only knows brute force. Through the realms of gods and demons, Zhao Zhao was lifted into the air in a grand bridal carry. Of course this welcome ceremony should be performed by me, she said with a smile. Yuri CS clicked his tongue as flames danced on his hands, ready to strike home. A mere crow with such big talk. That guy is mine, you better know your place. Far sighed helplessly. The demon gritted his teeth. Want a fight? Stinking raven. Far lifted his gaze slowly and calmly. If I could get rid of him from Zhao Zhao's side through this chance. Zhao Zhao, do you want to touch my ears? Today was supposed to be our tea date, Celia. One after another. They're so annoying. This guy is mine, he should stay by me. Zhao Zhao, go on a date with me today. That spot's reserved for me. You all better back off. Since she woke up this morning, her ears had been filled with constant chatter and demands from everyone around her. She was practically losing her freedom. Quite the lively scene. Came a cool male voice through the air as Golden Man approached her direction, followed by a young boy in black rabbit mask. Zhao Zhao lifted her gaze to speak, but several people reacted faster than she did, stepping forward and blocking her view with varied expressions. Celia held onto Zhao Zhao's arm protectively, hissing people away from Zhao Zhao. The abyssal demon tilted his head, clicking his tongue. Do you understand the concept of first come? Raven stepped up beside Yuri Xiao's, rarely seen so close to him. Don't let any bugs get near Miss Zhao Zhao. Zhao Zhao. They were surprisingly united at this moment. She lifted her gaze with difficulty and asked through a narrow gap, "Is there something you want to talk about?" Wei's hissing warning sound echoed, "Stay away from Yo-Yo." The abyssal demon tilted its head and hissed. "Do you understand the principle of first come, first served?" Carrion Crow stepped forward, rarely standing beside the RIX. "Don't get too close to Miss Yo-Yo." Yo-Yo. They were surprisingly united at this moment. She lifted her eyes with great difficulty, managing a thin slit between them. "Is there something you want to say to me?" "Nothing particularly important," Eleanor smiled. "I just wanted to thank you for cleansing that polluted place. Thanks to your efforts, the outside world is improving too." New Tower Master. Yo-Yo blinked and pointed at herself with a puzzled expression. "Are you talking about me?" Paused slightly before continuing. "The elves surrounding you are proof enough." Golden orbs encased tiny winged sprites that had been following her since the tower's flower purifying. She thought for a moment, then flicked through her character attributes on air and found Hurst Attis had indeed changed from adventurer to Tower Master. Yo-Yo. Could it be this development? The brave adventurer purifies the old Tower Master and inherits the Height Hour from their defeated predecessor. Quite an epic storyline, but very appealing. Still, she didn't know exactly how to proceed. "Do you believe me now?" he asked as he stepped forward. "I've been waiting for your arrival all along. We came here with this purpose. Would you like to cooperate with us?" "Cooperate? That's right, work together with those of us outside the tower." Life was peaceful since she had gained Tower Master permissions. After restoring and purifying the remaining pollution in the tower, she couldn't neglect phone infrastructure. Now, most of the ruins were cleared, forming a proper little town. Besides bosses living here, there were wandering merchants and even adventurers from outside the tower. Everything seemed to be returning to normal. Collaboration. Life has been rather smooth since gaining the authority of Tower Lord. It's been a blissful period, to say the least. After repairing the tower and purifying any remaining filth within it, I couldn't forget about the infrastructure on phone level. Now, most of the ruins have been cleared away, transforming into a quaint little town. Apart from the bosses who reside here, there are also wandering merchants and adventurers coming in from outside the tower. It feels like things have returned to how they were at the beginning. It's hard to feel grounded with everything going so smoothly, she thought as she ordered herself a coffee on one of the cafe's outdoor seats. Watching people bustling about on the street, her mind wandered back to recent events. The folks from outside and those within the tower coexist amicably now. Adventurers no longer come here solely for conquest, but simply out of curiosity or adventure. Some even seek out the legendary tower hero who defeated the corrupt Tower Lord. Various reasons, she mused. Just as she took a sip, someone interrupted her thoughts with a greeting hello. She looked up to see a stranger approaching. Smiling politely, she replied. It was unusual for adventurers to approach her these days. Perhaps it was because of how much she resembled an ordinary NPC that such encounters had become routine. "Would you mind giving me some information?" the newcomer asked as he scratched his head. "I'm here about today's Starfire Festival," he continued. "The festival is tonight," replied Yo-Yo. "There will be a grand bonfire in town center where close friends exchange gifts." The festival had been established shortly after defeating the Tower Lord. On this day, the spirits around her would appear like tiny sparks of light, hence its name. Many adventurers were still curious about it. Finishing off her coffee, Yo-Yo quickly got up and returned the cafe chair to its place before vanishing into thin air, a gift from the tower's elves that allowed her free movement within the structure. With only a few minutes until the event began, most of the preparations had already been completed. The new festival was barely a few weeks old, and already the streets were bustling with adventurers curious about it. After finishing his coffee, Joe quietly rose from her seat, pushed back the cafe chair, and vanished on the spot thanks to the special ability granted by the towers. With only minutes until the event began, the setup was nearly complete. A massive bonfire blazed in the center of the arena, surrounded by excited adventurers chatting away. Feeling pretty good about it, huh? Partnering with us, came a man's voice from behind her as he approached. Joey turned to see Aor and Black Rabbit following closely. They seemed to have come especially for this event. It's not bad, she replied thoughtfully. Much better than dealing with those cold NPCs. By the way, it's rare that you can just talk to me like this. The man smiled suddenly as he drew closer, his steps deliberate and close enough that Aor gently took her hand and kissed her knuckles in a show of politeness. If you don't mind, would you make me your first dance partner at the bonfire tonight? Joey blinked. Bonfire dance party? When did they add this? Alar's being sneaky, Black Rabbit chimed in from behind them, stepping forward to block Alar with a raised hand. His tone was calm but his expression and gestures were earnest. Ar simply smiled, ignoring the interruption as he pulled her closer by the wrist. First come, first served, he said smoothly, lifting her into an unexpected bridal carry before leaping off the ground. She instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck, and just as expected, a loud explosion echoed through the air with smoke billowing out. "TSK, who gave you permission to touch her?" growled a voice from behind them. It was the abyssal demon, whose face was not pleased at all, seemingly accustomed to such interruptions. "Are you going to join in on the Adventurers Festival too? You really are a lizard demon." The ground trembled as Chiao seemed to sense something and tightly wrapped her hands around the man's neck. Sure enough, an explosive boom echoed through the air, sending smoke billowing in all directions. "TSK, who gave you permission to touch her?" Standing there was a deep abyss demon with a less than boyish expression on his face. Yarnell chuckled instead of showing anger. It seemed he had grown accustomed to this. "Are you joining the Adventurers Festival activities?" Jiao gritted his teeth. "That should be my line. Stop talking and hand her over quickly." The Baisha Seishis in each floor could freely move through them, originally just an unwritten rule, but now it was openly flaunted. The tower conquerors here were more panicked. The noise had grown louder since the explosion. But things weren't done yet as other floors' bosses appeared one after another. "Human Festival? I've never participated before, sounds interesting. Celia wants to dance with Chiao. The scene was now in chaos. All sorts of BLCs gathered around Chiao, catching the attention of many adventurers watching from a distance. But soon, a hand suddenly grabbed her wrist and pulled her out of the fray. A young man wearing a military hat and boots gently pressed down on his cap to shield his expression as he said, "Follow me." It was Ed B. He led Kiao into the crowd around the bonfire where music for the dance had just started. "You really did it. Thanks." His voice was soft like a gentle breeze brushing her cheek. Perhaps he felt embarrassed. Abby avoided looking at her directly. Kuishao knew what he meant and smiled gently in response. "Just trust me." Bud-like butterfly perched on her fingertip. Perhaps inspired by her smile and the relaxed atmosphere around them, Abby couldn't help but relax his expression. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say more, but was suddenly interrupted. Yo-Yo naturally understood what he was saying and simply smiled lightly, replying, "Just trust me." A black butterfly perched on her fingertip. It seemed that the filth in the tower had been thoroughly purified. Its venom had lessened and considerably from when it first appeared. Perhaps inspired by Yo-Yo's smile and the relaxed atmosphere around them, the boy couldn't help but relax his furrowed brow. He opened his mouth as if to say something more, but was suddenly interrupted. Ar entered the scene without warning and pulled Yo into a warm embrace, leading her gracefully onto the dance floor amidst beautiful music. The man smiled, though there was no real warmth in it. Cutting in line isn't such a good habit, prosecutor. At this point, Yo-Yo hadn't realized that Ero's intrusion was just the beginning. One dance led to another, and each time she found herself with new partners. She almost collapsed from exhaustion at the ball. But somehow she didn't mind it one bit. "Come over here. The starlight fireworks are about to start." The crowd gathered before her, their faces beaming with genuine excitement as they waved for Yo-Yo and reserved a spot just for her. As the dazzling colors of the starlight firework burst across the dark sky, Everything seemed perfect. Even the initial desire to go home faded away in that moment. Young Tower Master gazed up at the sky, finally allowing his lips to curve into a smile. Author's note. Sorry it took so long for this chapter. I apologize to all my readers. There were various reasons, but none of them are excuses. The longer I put off finishing it, the guiltier and more hesitant I became. Thankfully, school let me out today, and thinking that this story has been ongoing since school started, I decided to come back for one last chapter. Thank you all who have stayed with me. Your encouragement kept me going when things got tough. This text is sourced from the internet. Please delete within 24 hours. All rights reserved by the author. If this text has infringed upon any of your rights, please notify us to remove it promptly. Thank you. It's been so cold, and if it weren't for your encouragement, I might have given up halfway through. This content is from the internet. Please delete within 24 hours. Copyright belongs to the original author. If this text has inadvertently infringed on your rights, please notify us so we can remove it promptly.